Story 1. While I was at my mom's house helping her after surgery, my security camera sent me an alert at 4 a.m. I opened the app and watched my wife keying my brand new $150,000 Mercedes and then spray painting cheater across the windshield. When I called her, shaking, and asked what was happening, she screamed, "Your best friend showed me everything, the texts, the hotel receipts, all of it. We're over." Then she hung up. I stared at my phone in complete shock. But 2 days later, they both showed up at night, begging for mercy after I did this. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone, and honestly, I don't know if I should feel proud or ashamed. The notification came at 4:17 a.m. I was sleeping on my mom's couch, the guest room still smelled like paint from the remodel she'd been doing before the surgery, when my phone buzzed against the coffee table. Motion detected at front entrance. I almost ignored it. Probably a raccoon or a delivery truck taking a wrong turn down our cul-de-sac. But something made me open the app. There she was. My wife of 7 years, Jessica, standing in our driveway in her yoga pants and my old college hoodie, holding something in her hand. At first, I couldn't process what I was seeing. The camera angle made everything look slightly distorted, like I was watching through water. Then she moved closer to my Mercedes, the S-Class I'd bought myself 3 months ago after closing the biggest deal of my career, and I saw the key. I watched her drag it across the driver's side door. Slow, deliberate. The sound didn't come through the camera, but I could imagine it. That horrible scraping, metal on metal, the kind of noise that makes your teeth hurt. She did it again. And again. Hood, doors, trunk. Methodical. Like she was checking items off a list. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Then she pulled out a spray paint can, red, I could see even in the grainy footage, and wrote across the windshield in huge, dripping letters, "Cheater." I called her immediately. My fingers could barely hit her contact. It rang twice. What? Her voice was sharp, breathless. I could hear wind in the background. "Jess, what are you doing?" My voice came out strangled, higher than normal. "What's happening? What's happening?" She laughed, but it wasn't a laugh. It was something ugly and metallic. "What's happening is that your best friend showed me everything. The texts, Alex. The hotel receipts. All of it. Every single lie." "What texts? What are you?" "Don't," she screamed, and I pulled the phone away from my ear. "Don't you dare lie to me anymore. Derek showed me everything. Everything. We're done. We're over." The line went dead. I sat there on my mom's couch, staring at my phone screen, watching my own reflection in the black glass. Derek. Derek Paulson. My best friend since sophomore year of college. The guy who'd been best man at my wedding. Who came over every Sunday to watch football. Who I'd lent 15 grand to when his startup was failing 2 years ago. Derek. What texts? What hotel receipts? I hadn't been to a hotel in months except for a work conference in Austin, and Jessica had been with me for that. I called her back. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Texted, "Please call me back. I don't know what Derek showed you, but I haven't cheated on you. I promise you, Jess, please just talk to me." Nothing. I tried Derek next. It rang and rang and rang. No voicemail, just ringing into a void. I tried 5 times. 6. 7. My mom came shuffling out of her bedroom around 5:30, still moving slow from the hip replacement. She found me sitting in the dark, phone in my lap, staring at nothing. "Honey?" Her voice was soft, concerned. "What's wrong?" I couldn't even explain it to her. How do you explain that your wife just destroyed your car because your best friend convinced her you were cheating when you hadn't even looked at another woman since your first date? How do you explain that you're 3 hours away, stuck because your mom needs help, and your entire life is imploding through a security camera feed? "Nothing, Mom," I said. "Go back to bed. I'm fine." She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly and retreated. She knew I was lying. Mothers always know. I spent the next hour on the couch, running through everything. Every interaction I'd had in the past few months. Every text message, every email, every conversation. Trying to find something that could be twisted, misinterpreted, taken out of context. There was nothing. I worked 60-hour weeks at a consulting firm. I came home tired. Jessica and I ordered takeout and watched Netflix. We were boring. We were happy. Or I thought we were. The sun started coming up around 6:45, pale light filtering through my mom's gauzy curtains. I opened the security app again and scrolled back through the footage. Watched Jessica key my car in reverse. There was something about her body language that bothered me. She didn't look angry. She looked focused. Determined. Like she was following instructions. That thought sat in my stomach like a stone. Around 7, I called my neighbor, Tom, who lived 2 houses down. He picked up on the 3rd ring, voice thick with sleep. "Alex? What's going on, man?" Tom, I need a favor. Can you go look at my car? Something happened last night and I'm stuck at my mom's place. Yeah, sure. Give me 5 minutes. He called back 7 minutes later. Oh my gosh, Alex. What happened? Your car's trashed. Someone wrote cheater on the windshield and keyed the heck out of every panel. You want me to call the cops? No, I said quickly. Too quickly. No, it's okay. I know who did it. It's personal. Thanks for checking, Tom. You sure? This is vandalism, man. This is serious. I'm sure. Thank you. I hung up before he could argue. My hands were steadier now. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by something colder. I opened my laptop and started going through our phone records. We had a shared plan, everything accessible through one account. Jessica's texts from the past week loaded slowly on my mom's spotty Wi-Fi. Most of it was normal. Texts to her sister about brunch plans. Group chat with her work friends about someone's baby shower. Messages to me about picking up groceries, asking how mom was doing after surgery. And then, starting 4 days ago, a new number I didn't recognize. The messages were deleted on her end, but the phone log showed calls. Lots of them. The first one lasted 47 minutes. The next day, 3 calls. 1 hour, 23 minutes, then 34 minutes, then 2 hours and 16 minutes. Someone was talking to her. A lot. I ran the number through a reverse lookup site. It came back to a prepaid phone, no name attached. But I knew. Somehow, I knew. I called Derek again. Still no answer. By 9 a.m., I'd made a decision. I couldn't leave my mom alone yet, she still needed help getting in and out of bed, and her first physical therapy appointment wasn't until the following afternoon. But I could make some calls. I started with my insurance company, filed a vandalism claim. The agent was sympathetic but firm. I'd need a police report. Damage looked like it was going to exceed $10,000 just for the paint work. When I explained the vandal was my wife, there was a long pause. That complicates things, she said carefully. You'll still need the police report, but we may need documentation that this is being handled as a criminal matter, not a domestic dispute. Otherwise, it falls under your household exclusion. I understand, I said, though I didn't really. I just knew I needed that report. I understand, I said, though I didn't really. I just knew I needed that report. Then I called the police non-emergency line. Gave them my address, explained what happened, said I had security footage. They said they'd send an officer by in the afternoon to take a statement and collect the video. And then I did something I'm not proud of. I logged into Jessica's email. We'd set up our accounts years ago, back when we were first married and everything was shared and open. She'd never changed her password, I knew because she used the same one for everything, the name of her childhood dog plus her birth year. I'd always told her it wasn't secure enough. She'd always laughed it off. Her inbox loaded. Work emails, promotional junk, a few personal messages from friends. Nothing incriminating. I checked her sent folder. Her trash. Her spam. Nothing. But then I checked her chat logs. She used the same email for Google Chat, though she mostly texted. There were old conversations, most of them with me or her sister. And then one chat thread that made my blood go cold. It was with Derek's email address. Started 6 days ago. The messages were vague at first. We need to talk about Alex. There's something you should know. But then, 3 days ago, the tone shifted. Derek, I can prove it. Meet me tomorrow and I'll show you everything. Jessica, this better not be some joke, Derek. If you're lying to me. Derek, I wish I was. But you deserve to know the truth. He's been lying to both of us. The next message was from Jessica, sent 2 days ago. I can't believe he'd do this. I feel sick. Derek, I know. I'm sorry. But you're better off knowing now than finding out some other way. What are you going to do? Jessica, I don't know. I need to think. Derek, whatever you decide, I'm here for you. You know that, right? Jessica, thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you right now. I read that exchange 5 times. Then 10. The words started to blur together. He'd convinced her I was cheating. But how? What did he show her? What evidence could he possibly have when there wasn't any? Unless. The thought arrived fully formed, like it had been waiting in the back of my mind this whole time. Unless he made it. I spent the next 2 hours digging. Every social media account I had, every cloud backup, every shared folder. I checked my credit card statements going back 6 months. My debit card. My Venmo. My PayPal. Everything. There was nothing. No hotel charges I didn't recognize. No suspicious transactions. No deleted messages. No secret email accounts. But Derek was a software engineer. A good one. He'd worked in cybersecurity before his startup. He knew how to fake metadata, spoof texts, Fabricate evidence. I'd watched him do it once as a prank in college, creating a fake email chain that looked like it came from our professor canceling class. It had been so convincing that half the class believed it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have been honest with her, Alex. Now everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are. I stared at the message. My hands started shaking again. I called the number. It rang once, then disconnected. I tried again. Same thing. Another text came through. Oh, and that insurance claim you just filed? Might want to rethink that. Wouldn't want Jessica to have to testify about why she was so upset, would you? My chest tightened. He was listening. Watching, somehow. Had he hacked my phone? My email? How long had he been planning this? I called my mom's landline from my cell, let it ring twice, then hung up. Then I called it again and let her answer. Alex? Why are you calling me? You're right in the living room. Mom, I need you to do something for me and not ask why. Can you get me your tablet? And don't say anything else out loud. She brought it to me, confusion written across her face. I typed out a message in the Notes app. I think my phone might be compromised. Can I borrow your tablet for a few hours? She read it, then nodded slowly. Her eyes were worried, but she didn't ask questions. I factory reset my phone. Watched it wipe everything, return to default settings. Then I set it aside and used my mom's tablet to create a new email address, one Derek couldn't possibly know about. I used it to log into my bank accounts, changed all my passwords to random strings of characters I wrote down on paper. Did the same for my credit cards, my investment accounts, everything. Then I started screenshotting. Every email Derek had sent me in the past year. Every text conversation we'd had before I wiped my phone. Every photo we'd taken together. I saved it all to my mom's tablet, then backed it up to a USB drive I found in her desk drawer. I was building a file. Evidence that we'd been friends. That I'd trusted him. That there was no reason for me to cheat with anyone because my life had been stable, happy, normal. But I needed more than that. I needed to prove he'd fabricated everything. I spent the afternoon on my mom's ancient desktop computer, the one she still used to play solitaire and check Facebook. I created a fake Facebook profile using a stock photo and a generated name. Then I sent Derek a friend request from it, posing as a woman named Ashley Mitchell who worked in marketing in our city. He accepted within 20 minutes. I sent him a message. Hi. I think we have some mutual friends. Do you go to Mason's pub downtown? I swear I've seen you there. His response came fast. Yeah, I'm there pretty regularly. Do I know you? Maybe. I'm there with my coworkers a lot. Are you going tonight? Can't tonight. Dealing with some stuff. But maybe this weekend? For sure. Would love to buy you a drink. He sent a winking emoji back. I felt sick. The police came by my house around 3 p.m., according to the doorbell camera. I called the officer from my mom's landline, walked him through everything remotely. Sent him the security footage via email. He took down all the information, said he'd be in touch. His voice was professional but sympathetic. These domestic situations are always tough, he said. You want to file charges? I don't know yet, I said honestly. Can I think about it? Sure. You've got time. The report will be filed either way for insurance purposes. That evening, Jessica finally texted me back. Not from her regular number, from a new one. I'm staying with my sister. Don't try to contact me. My lawyer will be in touch. Lawyer. The word hit me like a fist. I typed back, Jess, please. Whatever Derek showed you, it's not real. I haven't cheated on you. I would never cheat on you. Please just talk to me. The response came 10 minutes later. I saw the texts, Alex. I saw the receipts. Stop lying. It's pathetic. What texts? Show me. Send me screenshots. I'm begging you. Nothing. I tried calling from my mom's landline. She didn't pick up. I tried her sister's number. Straight to voicemail. I felt like I was drowning in open water, everything I tried to grab onto slipping through my fingers. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Derek. About every interaction we'd had, every conversation, trying to find the moment things had shifted. Had he always hated me? Had I done something to him without realizing it? Or was this about Jessica? Had he wanted her this whole time, waiting for his chance? Around 2 a.m., lying on my mom's couch in the dark, I remembered something. 3 months ago, right after I bought the Mercedes. Derek and I had gone to lunch, and he'd made a joke about how some people had all the luck. I'd laughed it off, offered to let him drive it sometime. He'd smiled, but the smile hadn't reached his eyes. Must be nice, he'd said. Having everything work out for you. At the time, I'd thought he was joking. Now, I wondered. I got up, grabbed my mom's tablet, and started searching. Derek's social media profiles, his old blog posts from college, his LinkedIn. Looking for something, anything that would give me insight into what was happening inside his head. His LinkedIn showed he'd been laid off from his last job 4 months ago. The startup he'd been consulting for had folded. He'd posted about it at the time, something about new opportunities and staying positive, but the comments had been sparse. Most of his posts in the past few months were desperate networking attempts, articles about resilience, motivational quotes. He was broke. Probably living off credit cards. And I'd just bought a $150,000 car. The pieces started clicking together. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not a divorce attorney, not yet. A criminal defense attorney who'd done some work for my company a few years back. His name was Marcus Chen, and he was sharp enough to cut glass. "Alex," he said when he picked up, voice warm. "It's been a while. What can I do for you?" I told him everything. The vandalism, Derek, the fake evidence, my suspicions. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "This is tricky," he finally said. "If he's fabricated evidence, that's definitely fraud, potentially forgery depending on how he did it. But we need proof. Real proof, not just suspicions. Can you get Jessica to show you what he gave her?" "She won't talk to me." "Then we need to approach this differently. Give me a day. I'm going to make some calls, see what our options are. In the meantime, don't do anything rash. Don't contact Derek, don't confront anyone. Just sit tight. My wife thinks I'm a cheater, Marcus. My car is destroyed. I can't just sit tight." "Yes, you can. Because if you go off half-cocked right now, you'll make everything worse. Trust me." I didn't want to trust him. I wanted to drive back home, break down Derek's door, and make him confess. But I said okay and hung up. My mom's first physical therapy appointment was the next afternoon. I drove her there in her old Camry, helped her inside, sat in the waiting room flipping through 6-month-old magazines without reading them. My mind was spinning in circles, always coming back to the same question: why? Why would Derek do this? What did he have to gain? And then, sitting in that waiting room, I figured it out. He didn't just want to ruin my marriage. He wanted Jessica. The thought made me physically nauseous. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and pressed my forehead against the cool metal door. Derek had always been a little too interested in Jessica's life. Always asking about her, how she was doing, what she was up to. I'd thought he was just being friendly, taking an interest in his best friend's wife. But now, looking back through the lens of suspicion, every interaction took on a different shade. The way he'd hugged her at our wedding, just a second too long. The time he'd shown up at our house when I was at work, said he was just in the neighborhood. The Christmas party 2 years ago when I'd found them talking in the corner, both laughing, and Jessica had seemed almost guilty when I walked up. I dismissed it all. Because Derek was my friend. Because I trusted him. When I got back to the waiting room, my mom was finishing up, moving slow but moving. The therapist said she was doing well, healing on schedule. I nodded and smiled and said all the right things, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. That night, Marcus called me back. "I've been thinking about your situation," he said. "And I've got an idea, but you're not going to like it." "Tell me." "We need to get Derek to confess. On record. And the best way to do that is to make him think he's won." "What does that mean?" "It means you need to play the part of the broken, defeated husband. Reach out to him. Tell him you know what he did, but you're not going to fight it. You just want to understand why. Appeal to his ego. If he thinks you're beaten, he might gloat. Might slip up and admit to fabricating evidence. You want me to call him and just surrender? Not surrender. Lay a trap. We'll record the call. Well, you'll record the call on your end, which is legal in a one-party consent state. If he admits to anything, even hints at it, we've got him." My hands were clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. "And if he doesn't? If he just plays innocent? Then we're no worse off than we are now." "But Alex, people like this? They want credit for what they've done. They want you to know how clever they were. Give him the opportunity to explain himself, and I bet he takes it." I thought about it for a long minute. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to confront Derek, to make him pay. But Marcus was right. I needed proof. "Okay," I said. "I'll do it." "Good. Call him tomorrow. Stay calm, stay defeated. You're not angry, you're broken. You just want to understand. Can you do that?" "Yeah," I said. "I can do that." I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I set up a recording app on my mom's tablet and called Derek from it. It rang 4 times. 5. 6. I was about to give up when he answered. "Alex." His voice was careful, neutral. "Why?" My voice came out exactly right, cracked, exhausted, desperate. I didn't have to fake it. "Just tell me why." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. Jessica won't talk to me. My car is destroyed. My marriage is over. Just tell me why you did it. Silence. I could hear him breathing. Derek, please. I just need to understand. We've been friends for 15 years. What did I do to you? More silence. Then, you really don't know? No. I swear. I don't understand any of this. He laughed. It was a bitter, ugly sound. Of course you don't. You never pay attention to anyone but yourself. What does that mean? It means you have everything, Alex. Everything. The job, the house, the car, the wife. You just coast through life while the rest of us struggle, and you don't even notice. Derek, do you know how many resumes I've sent out in the past 4 months? Do you know how many interviews I've been on? 73. 73 interviews, and not a single offer. Meanwhile, you're buying 6-figure cars like it's nothing. I didn't know you were struggling. You never said anything. Would it have mattered if I had? Of course it would have. You're my best friend. I would have helped you. Like you helped me 2 years ago? You mean loaned me money and then quietly judged me for needing it? I saw how you looked at me, Alex. Like I was pathetic. That's not true. Isn't it? His voice was rising now, getting heated. And Jessica? Perfect, beautiful Jessica. Do you have any idea how lucky you are? Do you even appreciate her? My heart started hammering. What does Jessica have to do with this? Everything. She deserves better than someone who takes her for granted. Someone who actually sees her. Someone like you? Maybe. Yeah. Maybe someone like me. I closed my eyes. Keep him talking. So you made up evidence that I was cheating. I didn't make anything up. I just helped her see what was already there. There was nothing there, Derek. You know that. Does it matter? She believes it. That's what counts. How did you do it? The texts, the hotel receipts, how did you fake it all? He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was colder. I didn't say I faked anything. But you did. There's no other explanation. I never cheated, which means you manufactured evidence. You're good with computers, Derek. Good enough to spoof messages, create fake documents. Did you hack my accounts? Plant false information? You can't prove any of that. So you did do it. Another pause. Longer this time. This conversation is over, Alex. Derek, wait. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my mom's tablet, my heart racing. It wasn't a full confession, but it was close. He'd admitted to helping Jessica see what was already there, admitted that he wanted her, implied that he'd done something to make her believe I'd cheated. Marcus was right. His ego had gotten the better of him. I saved the recording, backed it up to 3 different places, then called Marcus. I got it, I said. It's not perfect, but it's something. Send it to me. I'll listen to it and call you back. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. This is good, Marcus said. Not a smoking gun, but combined with everything else? The timing, the motivation, the lack of any real evidence of cheating? We can build a case. I'm going to reach out to Jessica's attorney, request that she provide the evidence she's basing her accusations on. If it's fabricated, we'll prove it. And then we'll go after Derek for fraud, defamation, whatever we can make stick. How long will that take? Weeks. Maybe months. These things don't move fast, Alex. I don't have months. She's already talking about divorce lawyers. Then we need to move faster on the Derek front. I'm going to make some calls, see if we can get a forensic analyst to look at whatever he gave Jessica. If it's fake, we'll know quickly. How do we get it? She won't talk to me. We'll subpoena it if we have to. In the meantime, sit tight. You're doing the right thing. I hung up feeling hollow. Weeks. Months. Everything I'd built with Jessica, destroyed, and I had to wait weeks to prove my innocence. But I didn't have to wait. Not entirely. That afternoon, using my Ashley Mitchell fake profile, I messaged Derek again. Hey. Still dealing with your stuff? Hope everything's okay. He responded an hour later, getting better. Thanks for asking. Want to grab that drink tonight? Might take your mind off things. Yeah, okay. Mason's at 8? Perfect. See you there. I called Marcus immediately. He's meeting me, meeting Ashley, at a bar tonight at 8. Alex, no. Don't do this. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I just want to see him. See if he's with Jessica. Get a sense of what they're planning. This is a bad idea. Maybe. But I'm doing it anyway. I drove back home that evening, arrived around 7. My car was still in the driveway, vandalized and spray-painted, looking like a crime scene. I parked my mom's Camry down the street, out of sight, and walked to Mason's pub. It was a Wednesday night, not too crowded. I found a seat at the far end of the bar where I could see the entrance but stay partially hidden behind a pillar. Ordered a water, nursed it slowly. Derek showed up at 8:06. He looked different. Thinner, maybe, or just more haggard. His hair was messier than usual, and he was wearing a shirt I recognized, one I'd given him for his birthday 2 years ago. He scanned the bar, looking for Ashley. I ducked further behind the pillar, watching him through the mirror behind the liquor bottles. He ordered a beer, checked his phone. Waited. After 10 minutes, he texted, presumably asking Ashley where she was. After 20, he started looking annoyed. And then, at 8:34, Jessica walked in. My heart stopped. She looked tired. Beautiful, but tired. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, no makeup. She spotted Derek immediately and walked over, slid onto the bar stool next to him. They talked. I couldn't hear what they were saying over the bar noise, but their body language spoke volumes. Derek leaned in close, touched her arm. Jessica didn't pull away. She was crying, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. Derek put his arm around her shoulders. I felt something break inside my chest. They stayed for 40 minutes. Derek bought her drinks, 2 of them, something clear in martini glasses. They talked and talked, heads bent together. At one point, Jessica laughed, just a small laugh, but it cut through me like glass. When they finally stood to leave, Derek's hand was on the small of her back, guiding her. Possessive. I waited until they were gone, then paid my tab and walked back to my car. Sat in the driver's seat in the dark, shaking. Marcus had said not to do anything rash. To wait, to build a case, to handle this through proper channels. But watching Jessica with Derek, seeing her laugh with the man who'd destroyed my life, something inside me shifted. Hardened. I wasn't going to wait anymore. The next morning, I drove back to my mom's house, told her I needed to handle some things and would she be okay alone for a few days. She said yes, though her eyes were worried. I think she knew I was planning something. Mothers always know. I spent the morning researching. Derek's address, I already knew it, had been there 100 times. His schedule, harder to pin down now that he was unemployed, but I knew he was a creature of habit. He went to the gym at 6 a.m., got coffee at the same place every morning, spent most of his day applying for jobs from his apartment. I also researched something else. Digital forensics. How to prove a file had been manipulated. What kind of metadata could be recovered. What a good forensic analyst would look for. And then I called someone I'd worked with once, a woman named Lisa Chen who did cybersecurity consulting. I explained the situation, vaguely, not mentioning names, and asked if she'd be willing to analyze some files if I could get them. Depends on the files, she said. But if they've been tampered with, I can probably prove it. My rate is $200 an hour. Done. I'll be in touch. That afternoon, I did something I'm still not sure was legal. I drove to Derek's apartment building, waited in the parking lot until I saw him leave around 5 p.m., gym bag in hand. Then I walked up to his door and knocked. No answer, obviously. I tried the handle. Locked. But Derek had always been careless about security. I checked under the doormat, nothing. Checked the fake rock by the door, nothing. But next to his door was a small potted plant, half dead. I tipped it over. The key was underneath. My hands were shaking as I unlocked his door and stepped inside. His apartment was a mess. Dishes in the sink, clothes on the floor, half-empty glasses on every surface. It smelled stale, like old pizza and desperation. I moved quickly through the living room, looking for his laptop. Found it on the coffee table, closed but plugged in. I opened it. Password protected. I tried his birthday. Wrong. Tried his mom's birthday. Wrong. Tried the name of his college girlfriend. Wrong. I stared at the login screen, about to give up. Then I noticed a sticky note under his keyboard, the kind of careless security mistake I never thought Derek would make. But desperate, unemployed Derek was different from the careful engineer I'd known. The note had what looked like a Wi-Fi password, but I tried it anyway. It unlocked. I found what I needed in less than 5 minutes. A folder on his desktop labeled Alex Project. Inside were dozens of files. Photoshop text message screenshots. Fabricated hotel receipts with my name and credit card number. Fake emails that looked like they'd been sent from my account to various women. Even a manipulated photo that made it look like I was having dinner with someone who wasn't Jessica. Everything was there. Every piece of evidence he'd shown her. All of it fake. I pulled out a USB drive, copied the entire folder. Then I found another folder labeled Jessica. Opened it. Photos. Hundreds of photos. Of Jessica. Some were clearly from social media, but others looked like they'd been taken without her knowledge. Outside our house. At the grocery store. Through our windows. I felt bile rise in my throat. There were also documents. A detailed timeline of my schedule. Notes about my habits, my routines. A list of passwords, including mine, which he must have obtained somehow. Plans. Step-by-step instructions he'd written to himself about how to isolate Jessica from me, how to feed her false information gradually, how to position himself as the trustworthy friend while painting me as the villain. The last document was labeled Endgame. I opened it. It was a plan for how Derek would help Jessica through the divorce. How he'd be there for her, support her, eventually start dating her once enough time had passed. How they'd move in together. How he'd use my money, the settlement he assumed Jessica would get, to restart his life. He'd been planning this for months. Maybe longer. I copied everything. Every file, every photo, every document. Then I closed the laptop, made sure everything looked exactly as I'd found it, and left. Locked the door behind me, put the key back under the plant. My hands didn't stop shaking until I was back in my car, driving away. I called Marcus from the road. I have everything. All the evidence he fabricated, all his plans. Everything. Alex, please tell me you didn't break into his apartment. I didn't answer. Oh my gosh. Okay. We can work with this, but we need to be smart about how we present it. Any evidence obtained illegally won't be admissible in court. I don't care about court anymore. I care about Jessica seeing the truth. Then send me everything. I'll figure out how to handle this. That night, I sent Marcus all the files. He called me back an hour later, his voice grim. This is worse than I thought. He's been stalking her, Alex. Those photos, the surveillance, this goes beyond fraud. This is obsession. I know. We need to go to the police. Show them everything. Not yet. First, I need Jessica to see it. Alex. Not yet, Marcus. Please. He sighed. You're going to do what you're going to do. But be careful. This guy is unstable. If he finds out you have this information, there's no telling how he'll react. I hung up and sat in my car, staring at nothing. Marcus was right. Derek was unstable. Dangerous, even. But I'd spent the past week being careful, being patient, playing by the rules. And where had it gotten me? It was time for a different approach. I spent the next day setting everything up. I created a website using a free hosting service, uploaded all of Derek's files to it. The fabricated evidence, the surveillance photos, his written plans. Everything laid out clearly, methodically, with explanations of what each file showed. I titled it The Truth About Derek Paulson. Then I sent the link to Jessica. And to her sister. And to Derek's mother. And to every mutual friend we had. And to Jessica's workplace HR department. And to Derek's former employers. I sent it to everyone. The nuclear option. Within an hour, my phone started ringing. Jessica called me 17 times. I didn't answer. Her sister called. Her friends called. Marcus called, furious. I turned my phone off. Around 8 p.m., there was a knock on my mom's door. I looked through the peephole. It was Derek and Jessica. Both of them. Derek's face was red, furious. Jessica looked shell-shocked. I opened the door but left the chain on. What the heck did you do? Derek's voice was shaking with rage. I showed everyone the truth. That's all. You broke into my apartment. You stole my personal files. I exposed your fraud. There's a difference. Jessica was crying. Alex, is it true? All of it? He made everything up? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd built a life with. Yes. All of it. He's been planning this for months, Jess. He fabricated every piece of evidence. And he's been stalking you. Taking photos of you without your knowledge. Her face went white. That's a lie, Derek said. He's manipulating you, Jess. Those files are fake. He planted them. The metadata shows when they were created, Derek. Weeks ago. Long before I supposedly broke into your apartment. I'd made sure of that, had Lisa verify every timestamp. And the police are going to want to talk to you about those surveillance photos. That's illegal in this state. Derek's expression changed. The anger drained away, replaced by something colder. Calculating. You've ruined me, he said quietly. My reputation, my career, everything. You've destroyed my entire life. You tried to destroy mine first. I loved her. His voice cracked. I loved her, and you didn't even appreciate what you had. Love doesn't look like this, Derek. This is obsession. This is cruelty. Jessica was backing away from him now, moving toward me. Derek, you need to leave. Both of you need to leave. Jess, Derek reached for her. Don't touch me. She pulled away. Don't ever touch me again. Derek's face crumpled. For a moment, he looked like he might cry. Then his expression hardened again. You'll regret this. Both of you. Is that a threat? I asked. It's a promise. He turned and walked away, down the driveway, into the dark. Jessica and I stood there in the doorway, not speaking. Finally, she said, I'm so sorry, Alex. I'm so sorry. I know. I should have trusted you. I should have questioned what he was showing me. I was so hurt, and he was so convincing, and, it's okay, I said, even though it wasn't. Even though I didn't know if it ever would be. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Can we fix this? Can we fix us? I didn't have an answer for that. So much had been broken. So much trust destroyed. Even if Derek had been the one wielding the hammer, Jessica had believed him. Had believed I could do that to her. Had keyed my car, had walked away without giving me a chance to defend myself. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if we can. She nodded slowly. I understand. But maybe we can try. She looked up at me, hope flickering in her eyes. Maybe, I said again. But not tonight. Tonight, you should go back to your sisters. And I need to think. Okay. Her voice was small. Okay. She left. I closed the door, locked it, put the chain back on. My mom came out of her bedroom, moving slowly. She'd been listening, I realized. Had probably heard everything. You did the right thing, she said. Did I? Yes. You stood up for yourself. You found the truth. That takes courage. I sat down on her couch, suddenly exhausted. I don't feel courageous. I feel tired. She sat next to me, put her hand on my shoulder. That's how you know it was real. Real courage doesn't feel brave. It just feels necessary. We sat there in silence for a long time. The next morning, the police came. They'd gotten my website link, someone had forwarded it to them. They had questions. A lot of questions. I answered all of them, showed them everything. Marcus showed up halfway through, started handling things legally. The evidence you obtained from his apartment can't be used directly in court, Marcus explained to me quietly while the detectives were conferring. But it gave them probable cause to get a warrant. They'll search his place legally now, find everything themselves. And that's exactly what happened. Within hours, they had a warrant. They found all the same files I'd found, all the surveillance photos, all the fabricated evidence. This time, it was admissible. They arrested Derek that afternoon. Charged him with fraud, forgery, stalking, and a list of other things I couldn't keep track of. His bail was set at $200,000. He couldn't make it. Jessica called me that evening. I saw the police blotter online. About Derek. Yeah. I gave my statement to the police. Told them everything he'd shown me, everything he'd said. They said it'll help the case. Good. Alex, I meant what I said last night. About trying to fix us. I know I messed up. I know I didn't trust you when I should have. But I want to try. If you'll let me. I closed my eyes. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately. To forgive everything, to go back to how things were. But things would never be how they were. That life was gone, destroyed by Derek's lies and Jessica's doubt. I need time, I said. I need to figure out what I want. What I can forgive. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. Jessica? Yeah? Why did you believe him? Really? What made you think I could do that to you? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe because things had been so good. Too good. And I kept waiting for something to go wrong. And when Derek showed me that evidence, it was like confirmation of this fear I'd been carrying that I wasn't enough. That eventually, you'd get bored and want something else. Someone else. That's not who I am. I know that now. But I didn't trust it then. I didn't trust us. And I'm sorry. We talked for another hour. About everything. About the pieces Derek had broken and whether they could be glued back together. About trust and betrayal and the difference between the two. When we hung up, I felt something shift. Not healing, exactly. But maybe the beginning of it. The case took 4 months to resolve. Derek pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. He got 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, and a restraining order keeping him away from both Jessica and me. Jessica and I started counseling. Individual and couples. It was hard. Some days, I wanted to walk away. Some days, she cried so hard she couldn't speak. But slowly, session by session, we started rebuilding. We're not back to where we were. Maybe we never will be. But we're somewhere new. Somewhere different. She trusts me again, mostly. And I've learned to trust her too, though it doesn't come as easily as it used to. My car got fixed. The insurance covered most of it, though it's never looked quite the same. There are still faint traces of the key marks if you know where to look. I think about Derek sometimes. About how a friendship of 15 years could curdle into something so toxic. About how envy and entitlement and unrequited feelings could twist someone into a person I didn't recognize. Mostly, though, I think about that moment in his apartment, looking at those files, seeing the depth of his obsession laid out in folders and documents. How thin the line is between admiration and resentment. Between friendship and destruction. Jessica asked me once if I regretted exposing him the way I did. If I thought I should have handled it differently. I told her the truth, I don't know. Maybe there was a better way. A more measured approach. Something that didn't feel like mutual destruction. But in that moment, standing in his apartment with evidence of his betrayal copied onto a USB drive, I wasn't thinking about better ways. I was thinking about survival. About protecting what was mine. About making sure the truth came out, no matter the cost. And it did come out. It all came out. 2 nights ago, Jessica and I were having dinner at home, something we've been doing more regularly, trying to rebuild normal routines, when she brought up something I'd been avoiding. I saw Derek's mother at the grocery store, she said quietly. I set down my fork. How was that? Awkward. She looked right through me. Like I didn't exist. Can't blame her. Her son's in prison because of us. Because of what he did, Jessica corrected. Not because of us. Feels the same sometimes. She reached across the table, took my hand. It's not the same. What he did was calculated. Cruel. What we did was survive. I looked at our hands, intertwined. Her wedding ring was back on. She'd started wearing it again 2 months ago, asked if that was okay. I'd said yes. Do you think we'll ever feel normal again? I asked. I don't know. Maybe this is normal now. Maybe we're just different people than we were before. She was probably right. The thing nobody tells you about revenge, about exposure, about justice, is that it doesn't feel the way you think it will. There's no catharsis, no moment of pure vindication where everything clicks into place and you feel whole again. There's just the slow, grinding work of moving forward. Of choosing, every single day, to try. Derek's in prison. My marriage is in counseling. My car has scars. And somewhere in all of that is a truth I'm still learning to live with. Sometimes, winning doesn't feel like winning. It just feels like surviving. But survival, I'm learning, is its own kind of victory. Last week, I drove past Mason's Pub, the place where I'd watched Jessica and Derek together that night. It's closed now, went out of business a few years back. There's a for lease sign in the window, dusty and faded. I thought about stopping, looking through the window at the empty bar, but I kept driving. Some places are better left in the past. Jessica and I are talking about moving. Getting a new house, somewhere with no memories of Derek or late-night security alerts or spray-painted vindictives. Somewhere we can build something new. I'm not sure if we'll do it. Not sure if changing locations changes anything real. But I think we'll try. That seems to be our theme now. Trying. The other day, my mom asked me if I forgave Derek. We were sitting in her living room, the same couch where this all started with that 4:17 a.m. notification. I thought about it for a long time before answering. No, I finally said. I don't think I do. And I don't think I will. That's okay, she said. Forgiveness isn't always the goal. Sometimes, moving forward is enough. So that's what I'm doing. Moving forward. One day at a time. One counseling session at a time. One dinner with Jessica at a time. And if occasionally I still wake up at 4:17 a.m., heart pounding, reaching for my phone to check the security cameras, well, that's just part of it now. Part of what Derek left behind. Part of what I'm learning to carry. The scars are still there. On my car, on my marriage, on my ability to trust. But scars mean healing. They mean survival. They mean I'm still here. We're still here. And maybe, eventually, that'll be enough. Story 2.
While I was setting up Halloween decorations for our family get-together at my parents' house, my mom recorded me and posted it on social media with the caption, "The failure of the bloodline. She'll always be our servant." My siblings laughed in the comments. I saw it while hanging cobwebs. I didn't cry. I didn't confront them. I just quietly finished decorating, smiled, and left. The next day, my mom texted, "Why did the landlord call saying we're all being evicted?" I stared at my phone, then replied, "Because I'm the..." I need to tell you something I've been carrying for 2 months now, and honestly, I don't know if you'll think I'm brilliant or terrible. Maybe both. Probably both. Let me back up. My name is Rachel. I'm 32. I work in commercial real estate development, which sounds boring until it becomes the most useful career in the world for specific, petty reasons. My family has always treated me like I'm less than. Not subtly, either. We're talking full-blown, theatrical cruelty that they dress up as jokes or sibling rivalry or toughening you up. My older sister Vanessa? Corporate lawyer. Married to a surgeon. 2 perfect kids who play violin and speak Mandarin. My younger brother Derek? Tech entrepreneur. Sold his first startup 3 years ago when he was 26. Drives a Tesla. Posts motivational quotes about grinding and winning. Then there's me. The middle child who wasted her college degree on a job that doesn't involve courtrooms or algorithms. The one who's still single. The one who shows up to family dinners and gets asked when I'm finally going to do something impressive with my life. I stopped trying to prove myself to them around age 25. Stopped bringing up my promotions, my projects, my actual accomplishments. They'd either ignore it or find a way to diminish it. So I just started smiling and nodding and letting them think whatever they wanted. That was my first mistake. Or maybe my first strategic move. I'm still deciding. The Halloween thing wasn't even the worst of it. That was just the moment I stopped pretending I could ever be enough for them. My parents have lived in the same house in Riverside for 18 years. Beautiful property. 4 bedrooms, big backyard, near good schools. They raised us there. Every Christmas card, every family photo, every milestone happened in that house. When I was younger, I used to imagine inheriting it someday, splitting it with Vanessa and Derek, keeping it in the family. Cute, right? 3 years ago, my parents started having money trouble. Dad's business took a hit during the supply chain crisis. Mom's boutique never recovered from the lockdowns. They were too proud to say anything directly, but I noticed things. Smaller birthday gifts. Skipping their annual wine country trip. My mom started cutting grocery coupons, which she used to mock other people for doing. Vanessa and Derek didn't notice. Or didn't care. They were too busy with their own perfect lives. I noticed. So when Dad mentioned casually over dinner one night that they were worried about refinancing their mortgage, I paid attention. When he said the bank was giving them trouble, that their credit wasn't what it used to be, I listened. When Mom made a bitter comment about potentially having to downsize, to leave the house where she raised her children, I filed it away. And then I made some calls. See, the thing about working in commercial real estate is you get very familiar with property law, investment structures, and creative financing. You also meet a lot of people with money looking for stable returns. Residential rental properties in good school districts? Steady income. Low risk. Attractive to certain investors. I spent 6 months putting together an LLC. Found 3 silent partners who trusted my track record. We pooled resources, and I structured a deal that was extremely favorable to a specific property owner who desperately needed to sell and lease back their home to avoid foreclosure. My parents never knew they were signing papers with my company. The LLC name was generic. Something forgettable like Riverside Property Holdings LLC. The lawyers who handled the closing were from a firm 2 counties over. I never appeared at any meetings. My silent partners' names were on the operational documents, not mine. Everything was legitimate, legal, and completely anonymous from their perspective. They signed papers with an LLC they'd never heard of, represented by lawyers they'd never meet again, facilitated by a title company that processed hundreds of similar deals. They got to stay in their house. Their monthly payments were lower than their old mortgage. They thought they'd been rescued by some benevolent investment group. Just another faceless LLC in a sea of corporate landlords. I saved their house. I became their landlord. And I never told them. For 3 years, they lived there thinking they'd gotten lucky. That some faceless corporation had given them a lifeline. They complained sometimes about renting instead of owning, but mostly they were relieved. The financial pressure eased. Dad's business slowly recovered. Mom reopened her boutique with a smaller storefront. Life continued. Vanessa and Derek never asked how our parents solved their money problems. Why would they? It was handled. Not their concern. They went back to their perfect lives and their perfect families and their perfect LinkedIn profiles. I went back to being the disappointment. Family dinners were still the same. Vanessa bragging about her latest case. Derek talking about his new funding round. Mom and Dad beaming at them, asking detailed questions, celebrating every tiny milestone. Then turning to me with polite, hollow interest. And how's work, Rachel? Good. Still doing the property thing? Yep. That's nice. Subject changed. I won't lie. It hurt. Every single time, it hurt. But I told myself it didn't matter. That I was the bigger person. That their opinion of me didn't define my worth. I was wrong about that last part. The thing that makes you snap is never the big stuff. It's not the years of being overlooked or the casual cruelty or even the blatant favoritism. It's something small. Something stupid. Something that just hits different because it's the 10,000th paper cut and suddenly you're bleeding out. For me, it was Halloween. Mom wanted to host a family get-together. Nothing huge. Just us, plus Vanessa's family and Derek's girlfriend. She asked if I could come early to help set up decorations. Said it would be nice to spend time together, just the two of us. I should have known better. I showed up at 10 in the morning with boxes of decorations I'd bought. Fake cobwebs, plastic spiders, those cheesy light-up pumpkins. Mom was in the kitchen when I arrived, on her phone. She barely looked up when I came in. "Oh good, you're here. Everything's in the garage. The ladder's out back." No hug. No thank you for coming early. Just instructions. I spent 3 hours decorating. Stringing lights along the porch. Hanging a ghost from the big oak tree. Arranging hay bales and pumpkins. Creating a whole elaborate display that honestly looked pretty great. Mom came out a few times. Took some photos. Gave vague directions about where things should go. Mostly scrolled on her phone. I was up on the ladder, stretching to secure cobwebs near the rain gutter, when I heard her laugh. That specific laugh she does when she's showing someone something she thinks is hilarious. I glanced down. She was filming me. Not just taking a photo. Actively recording video, that little red dot pulsing on her screen. "Perfect," she muttered, still filming. "This is perfect." Something cold settled in my stomach, but I didn't say anything. Just finished attaching the cobweb and climbed down. She'd already gone back inside by then. I kept decorating. Vanessa and her family arrived first. Her husband Mark gave me that pitying smile he always does, like he's sad for me that I'm related to myself. Her kids ignored me completely, which honestly was fine. Vanessa hugged Mom, complimented the decorations, then immediately started telling some story about opposing counsel in her latest trial. Derek showed up with his girlfriend, some influencer with 80,000 followers and a face full of filler. They took approximately 1 million photos in front of my decorations. Derek didn't acknowledge me once. We ate. We made small talk. Mom brought out her famous pumpkin pie. Everyone praised it like she discovered gravity. I helped clean up afterward. Washed dishes while everyone else moved to the living room. Wiped down counters. Took out trash. Standard Rachel duties. That's when I checked my phone. I don't know why I went to Instagram. Boredom, maybe. Habit. But I opened the app and there it was, posted 4 hours earlier. Video of me on the ladder. Stretching awkwardly. Looking tired and a little frumpy in my old jeans and oversized sweater. The angle made me look heavier than I am. The lighting was unflattering. And the caption. "The failure of the bloodline. She'll always be our servant." 34 likes already. Comments from Vanessa and Derek. Laughing emoji. Inside jokes I wasn't meant to understand but absolutely did. I stood there in my parents' kitchen, hands still damp from dishwater, staring at that screen. Something in me just went quiet. Not angry. Not sad. Just quiet. Like a switch flipping off. I locked my phone. Dried my hands. Walked back to the living room where everyone was watching a movie. I sat on the edge of the couch, smiled when someone made a joke, left after an appropriate amount of time. "Thanks for having me," I told my parents at the door. "Of course, sweetie," Mom said, distracted, already turning back to the TV. I drove home in silence. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just drove. And thought. Here's what I thought about. 3 years of playing fairy godmother to people who saw me as their servant. 3 years of anonymously saving their house while they mocked me at dinner parties. 3 years of protection they didn't deserve and had never thanked me for because they didn't know. Maybe it was time they knew. I spent that night going through documents. The original sale agreement. The leaseback contract. Property tax records. Everything was in order. Everything was legal. And everything included very specific clauses I'd insisted on when structuring the deal. Including a standard 60-day notice for non-renewal of lease. And a clause allowing the landlord to reclaim the property for personal use with proper notice and without cause. I'd put those in as a safety measure. Never thought I'd actually use them. It was just good business practice, protecting all parties' interests. Funny how good business practice can become a weapon. I didn't do anything that night. I just looked at the papers. Ran numbers. Checked timelines. Made sure I understood every legal option available to me. Then I went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to a text from my mom. Got a notice from the property company about lease renewal. They want to discuss terms. What does that mean? Are they raising our rent? I stared at that message for a long time. It was just a standard annual lease renewal notice. The property management company I'd hired to handle the administrative side sent them out automatically. Nothing threatening. Just routine paperwork. But Mom's anxiety had turned it into something ominous. And that text gave me the perfect opening. I could have explained. Could have said it's just routine paperwork, nothing to worry about. Could have eased her fears and gone back to being good, accommodating Rachel. Instead, I typed, "It means I'm the landlord. And yes, we need to discuss terms." Sent. Then I turned off my phone and went to work. I need you to understand that I didn't plan this as revenge. Not initially. When I bought their house 3 years ago, it was genuinely about helping them. About being the good daughter, even if they never knew it. About protecting them from their own bad decisions. But that Instagram post changed something. It wasn't about the specific words. It was about the casualness of it. The ease. The fact that she'd posted it publicly, tagged me in it, let my siblings mock me in the comments. The fact that she'd filmed me doing unpaid labor for her party and turned it into entertainment. The fact that after 3 years of me literally keeping a roof over her head, she saw me as nothing more than the family punchline. So yeah. When that text came through, when she handed me that perfect, unintentional opening, I took it. My phone stayed off for 6 hours. I went to a site meeting. Reviewed contracts. Had lunch with a client. Normal Thursday work stuff. When I finally turned it back on, I had 47 missed calls. 33 texts. Voice messages overflowing. Mom. Dad. Vanessa. Derek. Even Mark, Vanessa's husband, which was weird because we'd maybe exchanged 10 words ever. I scrolled through the texts first. Mom, Rachel, this isn't funny, call me back. Mom, Rachel. Mom, this is serious, we need to talk now. Dad, your mother is very upset. Please call us immediately. Vanessa, what the heck is going on? Mom is freaking out. Vanessa, did you actually buy their house? That's insane. Derek, answer your phone. Derek, this is really messed up, Rachel. I made tea. Sat on my couch. Read through everything twice. Then I called my lawyer. Not a family meeting. Not an emotional confrontation. My lawyer? Because here's the thing, I'm not actually a vindictive person. I don't enjoy hurting people. But I am meticulous. And I'm professional. And I knew that whatever came next needed to happen through proper channels, with proper documentation, and with proper legal protection for myself. My lawyer's name is Patricia. She's 60, brilliant, and completely unfazed by family drama because she's seen worse. I laid out the situation. She asked pointed questions. I answered honestly. So you want to terminate their lease? I want to know my options. Your options are, give 60-day notice and have them vacate, or negotiate a new lease with different terms, or sell the property entirely. What's your goal here? That was the question, wasn't it? What did I want? I wanted them to hurt the way they'd hurt me. I wanted them to panic. I wanted them to understand, for one single moment, what it felt like to be expendable. But I also didn't want to be the villain of my own story. I want them to understand that I'm not a joke, I told Patricia. I want them to take me seriously. Evicting your parents will definitely accomplish that. It will also probably destroy your family relationships permanently. Pretty sure those were already destroyed. I was just the last one to notice. Patricia made a hum sound. Let me ask you something. Do you want justice or do you want revenge? What's the difference? Justice is proportional. Justice is you setting boundaries and demanding respect. Revenge is you causing maximum damage because you're angry. Both are valid human responses, but only one lets you sleep at night. I thought about that. Can I do something that's both? She actually laughed. Now we're talking. Let me draw up some papers. That night I finally called my mother back. She answered on the first ring. Rachel Elizabeth, what is going on? Not honey. Not sweetheart. My full name, like I was 10 years old and in trouble. Hi, Mom. Don't hi Mom me. Did you buy our house? 3 years ago, yes. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, why? Because you were about to lose it. Because the bank was going to foreclose. Because I had the resources to help and you needed help. And you didn't think to tell us? I almost laughed. Would you have accepted if you knew it was me? More silence. Exactly, I continued. You needed help but you're too proud to take it from your failure daughter. So I helped anonymously. You're welcome, by the way. Rachel, this is incredibly generous? Yeah, I thought so too. This is manipulative? Now I did laugh. Bitter, sharp sound. Manipulative would have been holding it over your heads. Reminding you constantly that you owe me. Using it for leverage. I did literally none of that. I let you live in your house, with affordable rent, with zero strings attached. For 3 years. But you didn't tell us. Because it shouldn't have mattered who the landlord was. You got what you needed. That should have been enough. I heard Dad's voice in the background, urgent and demanding. Mom muffled the phone. When she came back, her voice was different. Smaller. Are you really evicting us? This was it. The moment where I became either a hero or a monster in my own story. That depends, I said carefully. On what? On whether you're capable of treating me like a human being. Rachel. No. Let me finish. I have saved your house. I have shown up to every family dinner. I have helped and supported and been there whenever you needed me. And in return, I get mocked. I get dismissed. I get filmed doing unpaid labor for your party and posted online as a joke. Do you have any idea how that felt? Silence. Mom. Do you? It was just a silly post. I didn't mean, you called me the failure of the bloodline. Publicly. You said I'll always be your servant. Vanessa and Derek laughed. Your friends liked it. And I'm supposed to just, what? Smile? Keep being your emotional punching bag? Keep proving myself over and over while you make it clear I'll never be enough? I heard her crying. Quiet, hiccuping sobs. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Old habit. The good daughter instinct. I swallowed it down. I'm not evicting you, I said finally. But things are going to change. What do you mean? I mean we're renegotiating. Everything. How this family works, how you treat me, all of it. And it starts with you taking down that post and apologizing. Publicly. Rachel, I can't. Yes, you can. And you will. Because the alternative is I give 60-day notice and you figure out where you're going to live. Your choice. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. I felt sick and powerful and terrified all at once. I also felt something else. Free. The next few days were chaos. Vanessa called me screaming. Actual screaming. About how I was tearing the family apart, how I was being cruel, how Mom was devastated. I let her yell. When she finally stopped for breath, I said, "Did you read the Instagram post?" What? The post Mom made. The one where she called me a failure. Did you read it before you commented your laughing emoji? Pause. That was just, we were joking, Rachel. Explain the joke to me. What? The joke. Explain it. What part was funny? The part where she called me a failure or the part where she said I'll always be a servant? You're being too sensitive. And you're being cruel. But at least I'm honest about it. I hung up on her too. Derek sent a long text instead of calling. Very on brand. It was full of business jargon about conflict resolution and family dynamics and moving forward productively. He suggested a mediated conversation. He offered to pay for a professional mediator. I replied, I don't need a mediator. I need basic respect. If that's too complicated for you to figure out, there's no amount of mediation that will help. He didn't respond. Dad called on day 3. Rachel, we need to fix this. I agree. Your mother is falling apart. Maybe she should have thought about that before humiliating me online. She took the post down. After I forced her to. She apologized. In a private text message. Not publicly. Not where everyone who saw the original post can see it. He sighed. Heavy, defeated sound. What do you want from us? I want you to see me. Actually see me. Not as the disappointing middle child or the family servant or the punchline to your jokes. As a person who has value. As your daughter who has been trying to earn your love for 32 years and just realized I never will. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Dad. But at least now we're being honest about it. Another sigh. Are you really going to make us leave the house? I don't know yet. That was true. I genuinely didn't know. Patricia had drawn up 3 different options. Option 1, formal eviction notice, they vacate in 60 days, I sell the property. Clean break. Maximum damage. Option 2, renegotiate the lease with a significant rent increase. They can afford it now that dad's business recovered. They stay, but on my terms. Option 3, family meeting. Mediated conversation. Boundaries established. Lease continues as if they demonstrate actual change. I stared at those options for hours. What did I actually want? Revenge felt good in theory. In practice, it made my stomach hurt. I kept imagining my parents packing boxes, leaving the house where they raised us, starting over somewhere smaller and cheaper. I imagined holidays in some sad apartment. Mom's face. Dad's defeated shoulders. And I felt nothing like victory. But I also couldn't go back to how things were. The Instagram post had been taken down within 24 hours of my phone call with Mom. But it wasn't enough. The comments were gone, but the screenshots existed. Vanessa had shared it to her story. 3 of Mom's friends had reshared it. The humiliation had spread. And the apology Mom sent me was half-hearted at best. I'm sorry if you were hurt by my post. It was meant to be lighthearted. I didn't realize you would take it so seriously. Classic non-apology. Sorry you were hurt. Sorry you took it wrong. Not sorry I did it. I showed it to Patricia. This isn't real remorse, she said immediately. I know. So what are you going to do? I looked at those 3 options again. Then I wrote a 4th. Here's what I did. I called a family meeting. Mandatory attendance. My parents, Vanessa, Derek. Just us. No spouses, no kids. The original family unit. I rented a conference room at a hotel. Neutral territory. Professional setting. I wanted them to understand this wasn't a casual chat. This was business. They showed up looking uncomfortable. Mom had been crying, obvious from her puffy eyes. Dad looked older than I remembered. Vanessa was in full lawyer mode, spine straight, face neutral. Derek kept checking his phone. I set ground rules immediately. Everyone gets to speak. No interrupting. No yelling. No storming out. We're going to sit here until we figure this out. Who put you in charge? Derek asked. I smiled. The person who owns the house you're about to lose. That shut him up. I started with facts. Laid out the timeline. Their financial crisis. My intervention. 3 years of paying their mortgage through an LLC. 3 years of protecting them while they mocked me. Mom tried to interrupt. I held up a hand. My turn. You'll get yours. I talked about the Instagram post. Printed out screenshots and slid them across the table. Made them look at it. Really look at it. This is how you see me, I said. The failure. The servant. This is what you think of your daughter. Mom was crying again. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? I was just, everyone jokes about their kids online. It's normal. Do Vanessa and Derek get posted about like this? Silence. Show me one post where you've called them failures. One post where you've mocked them publicly. I'll wait. She couldn't. I turned to Vanessa. You commented laughing emoji. Want to explain that? I mean, we've always teased each other. Teasing is bilateral. This was bullying. There's a difference. She looked away. Derek was still on his phone. Put it down, I said sharply. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. I'm being dramatic? I saved our parents' house. I did it anonymously, without wanting credit or recognition. I asked for nothing in return except basic human decency. And I got humiliated instead. But sure, I'm the dramatic one. Something in my voice must have finally reached him because he put the phone down. I pulled out documents. The original purchase agreement. The lease. The property deed. This is real, I said. I own the house. Legally. Completely. And I have every right to terminate the lease whenever I want. So here's what's going to happen. I laid out my terms. 1. Public apology from Mom. Real one. On the same platform where she posted the original. Acknowledging what she said was hurtful, taking full responsibility, no qualifiers or excuses. 2. Family therapy? All of us. Regular sessions with a professional. Non-negotiable. 3. Respect. Moving forward, I get treated like an equal member of this family. My accomplishments get acknowledged. My time gets valued. My presence gets appreciated. 4. The lease continues at current rent, but with a new clause. Any further disrespect, any further public humiliation, any further treatment that makes me feel less than, triggers immediate termination. You're blackmailing us, Vanessa said. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. This is insane. What's insane is that I have to threaten eviction to get basic respect from my own family. Dad finally spoke. And if we refuse? I met his eyes. Then you have 60 days to find somewhere else to live. I'll sell the property and wash my hands of all of you. You can't be serious. Try me. The room went silent. Mom was sobbing openly now. Vanessa looked furious. Derek looked shocked. Dad just looked tired. I need an answer, I said. Today. Right now. Do we move forward as a family with new terms, or do I call Patricia and start the eviction paperwork? Mom broke first. Fine. Yes. Whatever you want. Just please don't make us leave. Say it properly. All of you. I need to hear you agree to all 4 terms. One by one, they agreed. Mom first, desperate and crying. Dad next, resigned. Vanessa through gritted teeth. Derek last, barely audible. I stood up. Looked at all of them. I didn't want this, I said quietly. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to belong. But you made it clear that was never going to happen unless I forced it. So here we are. I left without waiting for responses. That was 6 weeks ago. Since then, things have been weird. Mom posted the apology. It wasn't easy for her. She created a new post with a photo of the 2 of us from years ago and wrote a genuine apology. She admitted she'd posted something hurtful about me, that she'd been wrong, and that she was working on being a better mother. It was stiff and clearly difficult for her to write, but it was public and real. Some of her friends commented supportively. A few asked what happened. She replied simply, I made a mistake and I'm making it right. We've had 1 family therapy session so far. It was uncomfortable and painful and nobody wanted to be there. The therapist asked good questions that nobody wanted to answer. We have another session scheduled next week. Vanessa hasn't called me. Neither has Derek. Dad sent 1 text, I hope you're happy. I'm not happy. But I'm not miserable either. I'm something else. Something I don't have a word for yet. Mom calls sometimes. Short, awkward conversations. She asks how I am. I ask how she is. We don't talk about anything real. But she calls. That's something. Last night she sent me a text. Just 3 words. I'm trying, Rachel. I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, I know. Thank you. It's not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it's acknowledgement. It's effort. It's more than I had before. Here's the thing I've learned, revenge doesn't actually feel good. It feels necessary and horrible and exhausting all at once. It feels like surgery. You do it because the alternative is worse, but it still hurts. I don't regret what I did. But I don't celebrate it either. I saved their house 3 years ago out of love. I threatened to take it away out of pain. Both things are true. Both things live in me simultaneously. I'm both the daughter who protected them and the daughter who hurt them back. That's the part nobody tells you about payback. You don't become the hero of your own story. You just become complicated. My friends ask if I feel vindicated. Honestly? I feel tired. I feel sad. I feel like I won a battle but the war is still raging inside my own head. But I also feel something else. I feel seen. For the first time in my life, my family is looking at me. Really looking. Not through me or around me or past me. At me. They might hate what they see. They might resent being forced to acknowledge it. But they're looking. And that's what I wanted all along. Not revenge. Not punishment. Just acknowledgement that I exist. That I matter. That hurting me has consequences. So yeah. I became my parents' landlord. I used that power to force them to face what they'd done. I drew boundaries with eviction papers and made them sign contracts to treat me with basic decency. And I'd do it again. Because here's what I know now, you can't earn love from people who've decided you're not worth it. You can't prove your value to people who are determined to see you as less than. You can't win a game where the rules were designed for you to lose. But you can change the game. You can take back the power they didn't know you had. You can demand the respect they never wanted to give. You can make yourself impossible to ignore. Will it fix everything? No. Will it heal the wounds? Probably not. Will it change their hearts? Maybe. Maybe not. But it changed mine. I'm not the family servant anymore. I'm not the punchline. I'm not the failure. I'm the landlord. And they're going to have to learn to live with that. The text from Mom this morning said, "Dinner this Sunday? I'll make your favorite." My favorite? She remembered I have a favorite. I typed back, "I'll be there." Then added, "But I'm not helping clean up afterward. Hire it out, do it yourselves." She sent back a thumbs up emoji. Baby steps. I still don't know if this family can be saved. If the damage is too deep. If forgiveness is even possible. But for the first time in 32 years, I'm not the only one trying. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything. I'll let you know how Sunday dinner goes, assuming they don't poison my food out of spite. I'm kidding. Mostly. Okay, so Sunday dinner happened. I need to tell you about it because it was possibly the strangest evening of my entire life. I almost didn't go. Sat in my car outside their house for 15 minutes, engine running, hand on the gear shift. Every instinct screamed at me to drive away. To text some excuse. To protect myself from whatever fresh humiliation might be waiting inside. But I'd set terms. I demanded change. And if I didn't show up to see if they were actually trying, then what was the point of any of this? So I turned off the car and walked to the door I used to walk through without knocking. This time, I knocked. Mom answered almost immediately, like she'd been waiting by the window. She looked nervous. Actually nervous. Her hands twisted together, and she stepped back to let me in without the usual air kiss greeting. "Rachel." "Hi. Come in. Dinner's almost ready." The house smelled like pot roast. My favorite, like she'd promised. That detail hit me harder than I expected. Dad was in the living room, standing awkwardly like he didn't know what to do with his hands. "Rachel. Good to see you." "Hi, Dad." Silence stretched between us. Heavy, unfamiliar silence where small talk used to fill the gaps. Vanessa emerged from the kitchen, and I braced myself for attitude. Instead, she gave me a tight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hey. Hey." Derek wasn't there yet. I felt simultaneously relieved and disappointed. We moved to the dining room in this strange, formal procession. The table was set nicely. Mom had used the good plates. Candles were lit. It looked like she was trying, which somehow made everything worse because I could see the effort and it reminded me of all the times she hadn't bothered. The pot roast was perfect. Tender meat, roasted vegetables, those crispy potatoes I've loved since childhood. Mom had made everything from scratch. This wasn't a peace offering. This was a white flag. We ate in near silence for the first 10 minutes. Just the sound of silverware on plates. Someone asking for salt. Painful, careful politeness. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "So, work is good?" I almost laughed. Same question. Same energy. But something about his face was different. He actually looked like he wanted to know the answer. "Yeah. Actually, we just secured a major development project downtown. Mixed-use complex. Residential and commercial. It's probably the biggest deal I've put together." I waited for the dismissive nod. The quick subject change. Instead, Dad leaned forward. "What's the scope? How many units?" I blinked. 140 residential. 20,000 square feet commercial space. 3-year timeline. That's significant. Your lead on that? Co-lead. With my boss. But I structured the financing and handled most of the negotiations. Impressive. He said it like he meant it. Like he was seeing me, actually seeing me, for the first time. Mom jumped in. "That sounds wonderful, honey. You'll have to tell us more about it." The honey felt foreign. Like she was trying on a word that didn't quite fit her mouth anymore. Vanessa was quiet, pushing food around her plate. She looked like she wanted to say something but couldn't figure out how. I decided to throw her a lifeline. "How's work for you? Still on that merger case?" She glanced up, surprised. "Yeah. It's complicated. Opposing counsel is making things difficult." "When's it go to trial?" "Next month. If it goes to trial, we might settle." "You think you win if it doesn't settle?" She actually smiled. Small, but real. "Yeah. I do." "Good." We fell back into silence, but it felt different. Less hostile. Just awkward. The front door opened. Derek called out, "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible." He appeared in the doorway with his girlfriend. The influencer. I'd forgotten she might be here. Her name was Madison, and she was exactly as exhausting as I remembered. She immediately started gushing about the house, the decorations that were still partially up from Halloween, the aesthetic vibes. She took photos of her plate before eating. She asked if the meal was gluten-free. Derek looked embarrassed, which was satisfying in a petty way. But then something unexpected happened. Madison turned to me. "So you're Rachel? Derek's sister?" "Yeah." "He says you're in real estate?" "Commercial development, mostly." Her eyes lit up. "That's so cool. I've been wanting to invest in property. Like, for real. Not just for content, but actual investments. Would you ever be willing to give me advice? I'd pay you for your time, obviously." I glanced at Derek. He looked uncomfortable. Like maybe he'd been talking about me differently lately. Like maybe the family narrative about me was shifting and he hadn't figured out how to handle it. "Sure," I told Madison. "I can recommend some resources. We can talk after dinner." "Amazing. Thank you." She went back to photographing her food, but the interaction had changed something in the room. Derek was looking at me differently. Everyone was. After dinner, I helped clear the table. Mom tried to stop me. "You don't have to do that. You're a guest. I'm your daughter. Not a guest." She paused, holding plates, looking like she might cry again. "I know. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't." It wasn't the big apology I demanded. It wasn't public or official. But it was something. Something real and unscripted and painful for her to say. "I know," I said quietly. We loaded the dishwasher in silence. Side by side. Like we used to when I was younger and things were simpler. Dad appeared in the doorway. "Rachel. Can we talk? Just for a minute?" Mom squeezed my shoulder and left us alone. Dad leaned against the counter, looking older and more tired than I wanted to acknowledge. "I need to say something to you." "Okay." "I failed you. As a father. I let your mother and your siblings treat you like you were less important. I participated in it myself. And I'm sorry. I wasn't ready for that. Wasn't ready for the directness. For the lack of excuses. I think." He struggled with the words. "I think we saw you as so capable. So independent. You never seemed to need us the way the others did. Vanessa was always asking for advice about cases. Derek was always sharing his business struggles. But you just handled things. Quietly. We mistook your strength for not needing support. That's not how it works, Dad. Strong people need support too. I know that now. I should have known it before." He looked at me. Really looked. "When you told us you owned the house, my first feeling wasn't anger. It was shame. Because you saved us. You protected us when we needed it. And we never even thanked you because we didn't know. And then I thought about how many other things you've probably done for this family that we never acknowledged because we weren't paying attention." My throat was tight. A lot, actually. "I believe that. And I'm sorry." "Why now? Why does it take me threatening to evict you for you to suddenly see me?" He winced. "Because we're comfortable people, Rachel. We got comfortable in our roles. Comfortable in our assumptions. You forced us out of that comfort. You made us look at ourselves. And what we saw wasn't pretty." "No. It wasn't." "Are we fixable?" He asked it like he genuinely didn't know the answer. I thought about that. About family therapy and forced apologies and signed contracts. About pot roast and real questions and actual eye contact. Maybe. If everyone keeps trying. I'll try. I promise I'll try. He hugged me then. Tight and real. Not the awkward side hug he usually gave. A real embrace that said I'm sorry and I love you and I see you now. I let myself hug him back. When we returned to the living room, everyone had migrated there. Derek was showing Dad something on his phone. Vanessa was talking to Mom about her kid's school situation. Madison was scrolling Instagram but looked up when I entered. "Ready to talk real estate?" she asked. We sat in the corner, and I gave her actual advice. Not condescending or dismissive. Real guidance about property investment for beginners. She took notes on her phone. Asked smart questions. Treated me like an expert worth listening to. Derek watched us from across the room. When Madison got up to use the bathroom, he came over. Hey. Hey. She really appreciates your help. She seems nice. More substance than I gave her credit for. He rubbed the back of his neck. Look, I know I've been a jerk. I know I participated in everything. The jokes. The dismissiveness. I never thought about how it felt from your side. No, you didn't. I'm thinking about it now. Good. He hesitated. The thing is, I always kind of looked up to you. You were so self-sufficient. So unbothered by what everyone thought. I envied that. I almost laughed. I wasn't unbothered, Derek. I was just good at hiding how much it hurt. Yeah. I'm starting to understand that. Are you going to be different? Actually different? Or is this just temporary guilt? I don't know. Honestly. But I'm going to try. Everyone kept saying they'd try. Like it was some magic word that fixed everything. But maybe try was all I could ask for right now. I left around 9. Mom walked me to the door. Thank you for coming, she said. Thanks for having me. Next time, maybe you could stay longer? We could watch a movie or something. Like we used to. Like we used to. When I was younger and desperate for her attention and would do anything to feel included. Maybe, I said. She hugged me. Another real hug. I'm trying, Rachel. I know it's not enough yet. But I'm trying. I know, Mom. I drove home with the windows down, even though it was cold. Let the air clear my head. The thing nobody tells you about revenge is what comes after. After the confrontation. After the demands. After everyone promises to do better. You're left with the same broken people trying to glue themselves back together. And you have to decide if you believe in their ability to change. If you believe in your own ability to forgive. I don't have those answers yet. But Sunday dinner was different. That's something. The second therapy session was worse than the first. The therapist, Dr. Morrison, decided we were ready to dig deeper. She asked Mom to explain why she posted what she did. Asked her to really examine her motivations. Mom fell apart. Turns out, she was jealous. Of me. Which I never saw coming. You were always so independent, Mom said, crying. You never needed me. Even as a kid, you figured things out yourself. Vanessa and Derek came to me for everything. But you just didn't. So you mocked me publicly because I was too independent? I wanted you to need me. I wanted to feel important to you. And when you didn't, I think I resented it. I know that's horrible. I know that's terrible parenting. But it's the truth. Dr. Morrison leaned forward. And posting that picture? How did that connect to those feelings? Mom twisted her tissue. You looked so capable. Up on that ladder. Handling everything. Like you always do. And I wanted to take you down a peg. I wanted other people to see you the way I felt. Small. Not quite good enough. The session went downhill from there. Vanessa admitted she'd always competed with me. Saw me as a threat, even though we were in completely different fields. She'd built me up as this villain in her head. Someone who judged her. Someone who thought she was shallow. I never thought that, I said. But you never told me I was good at my job either. You never asked about my cases like you were actually interested. Because every time I did, you changed the subject or made it about Mom and Dad being proud of you. Because I thought you didn't care. We were both crying by the end. Derek sat there looking uncomfortable, refusing to participate much. Dr. Morrison assigned homework. Individual journals. Reflection exercises. Communication practice. I left feeling worse than when I arrived. But I kept going. Every week. Sitting in that uncomfortable room, digging through decades of dysfunction. Week 3, Derek finally opened up. Talked about feeling pressured to be perfect. About Dad's expectations. About using mockery as a way to deflect from his own insecurities. You were the safe target, he admitted. Mom and Dad never defended you the way they defended Vanessa and me. So it was easy to make you the butt of jokes. It took the pressure off me. That's incredibly messed up, I said. I know. You use me as a shield. I know. He cried. Actual tears. Derek, who I'd never seen cry, sobbing in a therapist's office about how messed up our family dynamics were. We're 6 sessions in now. It's exhausting. It's painful. Sometimes I leave those sessions and sit in my car and wonder if any of this is worth it. But things are changing. Slowly. Incrementally. In ways I didn't expect. Mom calls me twice a week now. Not about family obligations or favors. Just to talk. She asks about my day. Tells me about hers. We had a 30-minute conversation last Tuesday about absolutely nothing important, and it was the best conversation we've ever had. Dad sent me an article about a new development project he thought I'd find interesting. Included a note, "Made me think of you." Vanessa invited me to coffee. Just us. No agenda. We talked about work and relationships and how messed up our childhood was. We laughed about things that used to hurt. Not because they're funny, but because we're finally on the same side. Derek hasn't posted a single motivational quote in 3 weeks. He's in therapy now too. Individual therapy, working through his own stuff. He texted me last week, "This is hard. But thanks for forcing us to deal with it." The rent gets paid on time every month. They haven't tested the boundaries I set. Haven't pushed back against my terms. I think they're scared I'll actually follow through. That the eviction threat wasn't empty. They're right to be scared. It wasn't. But I don't think I'll need to use it. Because here's what I'm learning: sometimes you have to blow up your entire family to save it. Sometimes love looks like boundaries and consequences and forcing people to face themselves. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be small anymore. I'm not the family servant. I'm not the failure. I'm not the punchline. I'm Rachel. I'm a successful real estate developer. I'm someone who saved her parents' house and demanded respect and changed the entire dynamic of her family. I'm the landlord. And slowly, painfully, one therapy session at a time, I'm also becoming their daughter again. The real kind. The seen kind. The kind who matters. That's the ending I'm writing now. Not with revenge. Not with punishment. But with the quiet, hard work of rebuilding something that was broken before I was old enough to understand it was breaking. Mom asked me yesterday if I'd ever consider transferring the house back to them. Letting them buy it back now that they're financially stable. I told her I'd think about it. I haven't decided yet. Part of me wants to give them that gift. Part of me wants to keep the leverage. The power. The reminder that I'm not someone they can dismiss anymore. Maybe that's the real work I need to do now. Figuring out how to put down the weapon without making myself vulnerable again. Dr. Morrison says that's normal. That I'm learning to trust after years of betrayal. That it takes time. I have time. They're not going anywhere. Neither am I. And maybe that's enough for now.
Story 3. My parents blackmailed me into signing over my house to my sister by threatening to expose a mistake I made 10 years ago that nearly destroyed my life. My dad looked me in the eyes and said, "Sign the deed or everyone finds out what you did. Your choice." My sister smirked while holding her newborn, playing the victim perfectly. I didn't argue. I signed the papers right there, hands shaking. They thought they'd won. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the last 8 months quietly gathering evidence of their own past, the fraud, the affairs, the hidden accounts. 2 days later, I made one phone call. By that evening, federal agents were knocking on their door. I signed away my house on a Tuesday. The pen felt heavier than it should have. My father stood behind me, breathing down my neck like he used to when I was 14 and failing algebra. My mother sat across the kitchen table, perfectly still, hands folded like she was at church. My sister, Jennifer, always Jennifer, never Jen, never Jenny, stood by the window with her 3-week-old daughter cradled against her chest. She wasn't even looking at me. She was looking out at the yard, at the garden I'd planted 2 springs ago, at the fence I'd repaired last summer. My house. The first thing I'd ever truly owned. "This is for the best," my mother said. Her voice had that gentle, reasonable quality she used when she wanted you to believe a lie. "Jennifer needs stability right now. The baby needs a home." I wanted to laugh. Jennifer had a home. A perfectly nice townhouse in the suburbs that her husband's insurance money had helped buy. But nice wasn't enough. Nice didn't have the finished basement or the corner lot or the neighborhood where property values kept climbing. "Sign it." My father's hand landed on my shoulder. Not hard. Just heavy enough to remind me. I signed. My hand shook so badly the signature looked like a child's. The notary, some woman they'd brought in, someone who smiled too much and asked no questions, stamped the papers with practiced efficiency. Done. Legal. Binding. Jennifer turned from the window. She met my eyes for exactly 2 seconds, and in that moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Not quite triumph. More like satisfaction. Like she'd been waiting for this her whole life. "Thank you," she said. She adjusted the baby against her shoulder. "This means everything to me." The baby made a small sound, something between a coo and a whimper. I wondered if she'd grow up hearing the story of how her mother got this house. Probably not. Jennifer was good at editing history. They left 20 minutes later. My father took the papers. My mother hugged me at the door, actually hugged me, like we were a normal family doing normal things. Jennifer loaded the baby into her car seat and drove away without another word. I stood in the doorway and watched them go. Then I walked upstairs to my bedroom, opened my laptop, and looked at the folder I'd been building for the last 8 months. The one labeled Tax Documents 2015. The one that had nothing to do with taxes. Inside were bank statements, emails, scanned letters, photographs of documents I'd copied when I house sat for them last March, screen captures of conversations I'd saved before they could be deleted, wire transfer records from accounts my father thought he'd hidden well enough. 8 months of careful, quiet work. The mistake they'd threatened to expose? It happened when I was 23. Fresh out of college, working my first real job at a marketing firm downtown. I'd been dating this woman, Rachel, for about 6 months. She seemed perfect. Smart, funny, ambitious. She worked in pharmaceutical sales and traveled constantly. I thought we had something real. Turned out Rachel was married. Not separated, not in the process of divorcing, married, with a husband and 2 kids in a suburb I'd never even visited. When he found out about me, he showed up at my office. Made a scene in the lobby. Security had to remove him. My boss pulled me into his office an hour later and suggested I might want to find opportunities elsewhere. The worst part? I genuinely hadn't known. Rachel had been that good at lying. But that didn't matter. I was the other man. The homewrecker. The guy who'd slept with someone's wife. My parents found out when Rachel's husband tracked them down and threatened to sue me for alienation of affection. That's apparently a real thing in some states. He never followed through. His lawyer probably told him it would cost more than it was worth, but the damage was done. My father made me sit down with him and Rachel's husband. Made me apologize. Made me promise I'd never speak to Rachel again, never try to contact her, never defend myself publicly. He said it was about taking responsibility. About being a man. I did it. I apologized to a man whose wife had lied to both of us. I swallowed every ounce of anger and humiliation and said the words my father wanted me to say. Then I moved 2 states away and started over. That was 10 years ago. I'd rebuilt my entire life since then. New job, new city, new friends who knew nothing about Rachel or her husband or the scene in that office lobby. I bought my house 3 years ago, a small 2-bedroom craftsman with good bones and a big backyard. I'd worked double shifts to save for the down payment. I'd stripped wallpaper and refinished floors and replaced fixtures until it was exactly what I wanted. It was mine. And then, 2 months ago, Jennifer's husband died. Heart attack. Sudden, tragic, all the words people use when someone dies young. He was 39. Left Jennifer with a new baby and a mortgage and life insurance money that apparently wasn't quite enough. My parents started calling more often after that. Checking in. Asking how I was. Wondering if I might come home for a weekend. I should have seen it coming. The intervention happened on a Saturday. They invited me over for dinner, said Jennifer would be there too, said we should all spend time together as a family. When I arrived, my father was waiting in the driveway. "We need to talk," he said. Inside. They'd set up the kitchen table like a business meeting. My mother on one side, Jennifer on the other, my father standing. Me in the chair facing all of them. "Jennifer needs help," my mother began. "The house she's in isn't suitable for a baby. The stairs are too steep, the neighborhood isn't safe, and frankly, she can't afford the upkeep on her own." I looked at Jennifer. She had the baby in her arms again. She always had the baby in her arms when she wanted something. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying recently. Probably had been. Jennifer was excellent at crying on cue. "I'm sorry about everything you're going through," I said. "But I don't see how I can help." My father moved then. Came around the table and sat next to me. Close enough that I could smell his coffee breath. "Your house," he said. "Jennifer needs it more than you do." I actually laughed. "You're joking. You're young, you're single, you don't have children." My mother's voice was so reasonable. So calm. "You can rent an apartment, start over. Jennifer can't. She has a daughter to think about. I'm not giving her my house." The words came out harder than I meant them to. Jennifer flinched, pulled the baby closer. My mother's expression tightened. My father reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. He set it on the table between us, didn't open it. "You remember Rachel?" he asked. My stomach dropped. "Of course you do." He tapped the envelope. "I kept everything. Emails from her husband. Police reports from the incident at your office. Photos of the 2 of you together that he sent me. Documentation of the whole mess. That's not. I'm a respected member of this community. So is your mother. We have a reputation to uphold." His voice was still conversational, still measured. "Your sister is grieving. She's vulnerable. If people in this town found out that her brother once carried on an affair with a married woman, if they learned that he broke up a family, destroyed a marriage, caused that kind of pain, well, it would reflect poorly on all of us. It wasn't an affair. I didn't know. Doesn't matter what you knew. He opened the envelope, pulled out a photograph. It showed me and Rachel at a restaurant, sitting close, her hand on mine. What matters is what it looks like. What people will think. Your current employer, for instance. Your friends. That woman you've been seeing, what's her name? Emily? Heat crawled up my neck. You wouldn't sign the deed over to Jennifer, my father said. Or everyone finds out what you did. Your choice. I looked at my mother. She met my eyes without expression, like she was watching a movie she'd seen before. I looked at Jennifer. She adjusted the baby, swayed slightly, the picture of maternal fragility. This isn't right, I said. Neither was what you did to that family. My father slid a stack of papers across the table. The notary will be here in 15 minutes. Sign, or I start making calls tonight. The thing about blackmail is that it works best when there's a grain of truth to stand on. Yeah, I'd been with Rachel. Yeah, I'd hurt her husband, even if accidentally. Yeah, my current life could come crashing down if the story got out, especially the version my father would tell. So I signed. And while I signed, while my hand shook and my mother watched and Jennifer stood by the window looking satisfied, I thought about the folder on my laptop. The one I'd been building since Christmas. Because here's what they didn't know. Last March, almost a year ago, I'd stayed at my parents' house for a week. Watched it while they went on a cruise, my mother's birthday gift to herself. Jennifer had been there too, moving some of her things into storage in their basement while her house was being renovated. I was in my father's office looking for a phone charger when I found the file cabinet drawer that wasn't locked properly. Inside was a folder marked personal, confidential. I almost didn't open it. Should have left it alone. But I was angry that day. I just found out Emily had started seeing someone else, and my promotion at work had fallen through, and I was tired of being the family member who got nothing while Jennifer got everything. So I opened it. Inside were bank statements for accounts I'd never heard of. Statements in my father's name, in my mother's name, in both their names together. Accounts in the Cayman Islands. Accounts in Switzerland. Numbers that didn't match what I knew they earned, what they said they had. There were emails too. Printed out, filed chronologically. Emails between my father and his business partner discussing how to categorize certain expenses. How to move money between accounts. How to make things look legitimate when they weren't. My father owned a construction company. Had for 30 years. Built half the commercial buildings in our county. I'd always assumed it was successful because he was good at his job. Turned out he was also good at insurance fraud. At bidding contracts with insider information. At reporting income that didn't exist and hiding income that did. I took photos of everything with my phone. Then I put it all back exactly as I'd found it, closed the drawer, and went back to looking for that charger. For 3 months I did nothing with those photos. Just kept them in a folder on my laptop, told myself I was being paranoid, that there had to be a reasonable explanation. Then Jennifer's husband died. And the phone calls started. And I began to suspect that this wasn't just grief support, this was the beginning of something. So I started digging. I created fake social media accounts. I searched public records. I looked up property deeds and business licenses and tax liens. I found my father's business partner, his name was Carl, he'd been part of the company since the beginning, and I found Carl's divorce records from 8 years ago. In those records, Carl's ex-wife had made allegations about financial impropriety at the construction company. The allegations went nowhere. Carl had good lawyers. But they gave me a roadmap. I found the shell companies my father had created. Found the bank accounts linked to those companies. Found wire transfers moving money in circles until it was hard to track where it had started. I found evidence of bid rigging on 3 separate government contracts. Found emails, some of them from the folder I'd photographed, others I obtained through FOIA requests, discussing how to ensure certain competitors didn't get their bids in on time. I found out that my father had been having an affair with his office manager for 6 years. Found hotel receipts, dinner charges, a weekend trip to Napa that my mother had definitely not been on. I found out that my mother knew about it. Found a printed email in my father's files, one she'd sent to her sister that he'd apparently kept, discussing the affair, discussing how she'd decided to look the other way as long as the money kept coming in. As long as her lifestyle stayed comfortable. I found out that Jennifer had been paying herself a salary from one of my father's shell companies for the last 4 years. A nice salary for work she didn't do, from a company that existed only on paper. 8 months of digging. 8 months of documenting. 8 months of building a case so airtight that even expensive lawyers couldn't find a way out. And through it all, I waited. Because I knew something was coming. I could feel it in how my parents talked to me, how Jennifer looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I just didn't know what they wanted until they asked for my house. After I signed the papers, after they left, I sat down and reviewed everything one more time. Made sure the evidence was organized. Made sure the timeline was clear. Made sure I could prove every single thing I'd found. Then I called a lawyer. Not my family's lawyer, someone else. Someone 3 towns over who specialized in white-collar crime and had no connection to anyone I knew. I made an appointment for Monday morning. I need advice, I said when I arrived. About reporting financial crimes. The lawyer's name was Catherine Reeves. She was in her 50s, had gray hair she wore in a short, practical cut, and an office that smelled like coffee and old paper. She listened while I explained everything. Didn't interrupt, didn't react, just took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she set down her pen. "Do you understand what you're about to do?" she asked. "Yes. This will destroy your family. Your father will go to prison. Your mother might too, depending on how much she knew and when. Your sister could face charges for participating in fraud. I understand. They'll hate you for it. They'll say you're vindictive, that you're punishing them for something trivial. People will take their side. I know." She studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "All right. Let me see what you have." I handed her the USB drive with copies of everything. She plugged it into her computer and started reading. Occasionally she'd stop, zoom in on something, make another note. This went on for almost 2 hours. Finally, she looked up. "This is substantial," she said. "More than substantial. This is prosecutable. The FBI will want to see this." The FBI? Some of these contracts were federal. That makes it federal fraud. And the offshore accounts suggest tax evasion, possibly money laundering. This is beyond local police. She closed her laptop. "Are you absolutely certain?" I thought about my house. About the way Jennifer had looked standing by the window. About my father's hand on my shoulder, heavy and threatening. About the envelope full of photos he'd kept for 10 years, waiting for the right moment to use them. "I'm certain." Catherine made the call that afternoon. 2 days later, Thursday, exactly 48 hours after I'd signed away my house, 2 federal agents showed up at my apartment. They were polite. Professional. They asked me to walk them through everything, explain where I'd found each piece of evidence, describe what I thought it meant. I did. They took notes, asked clarifying questions, thanked me for my time. "We'll need to verify some of this," the older agent said. His name was Morrison, and he had the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too many cases like this. "But if it checks out the way you say it does, we'll be moving forward quickly." How quickly? Could be weeks, could be months. Hard to say. But we take fraud seriously, especially when it involves government contracts. They left. I went back to work. Tried to act normal, tried to pretend everything was fine. Emily texted me that evening, asked if I wanted to grab dinner. I said I was busy. She didn't push. On Friday, Jennifer called. "I want to thank you again," she said. Her voice was warm, almost sisterly. Like we were close. Like we'd always been close. "For the house. It really means the world to me." "Sure. I'm moving in next weekend. Mom and Dad are helping. Do you need time to get your things out, or?" "I'll be out by Sunday." "Perfect. You're a good brother." She paused. "I know this was hard for you. But you did the right thing." I hung up without answering. That weekend I packed. Not everything, just the things that mattered. Clothes, books, my laptop, some photos. The furniture could stay. Jennifer would probably want it anyway, and I couldn't stomach the idea of moving it all. Sunday afternoon, I dropped off my keys at my parents' house. My mother answered the door. "All packed up?" she asked. "Yeah. Where are you staying?" I found a place. I hadn't, not really. I was staying in a hotel until I figured things out. But she didn't need to know that. She reached out like she might touch my arm, then seemed to think better of it. This was for the best. "You'll see that eventually." I left without responding. Monday came and went. Tuesday. Wednesday. I went to work, came home to the hotel, ate takeout, and waited. Thursday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Nathan Shepard?" A man's voice, crisp and official. "Yes. This is Special Agent Morrison. We met last week. I wanted to let you know we've concluded our preliminary investigation into the materials you provided." My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. "And? We'll be executing search warrants tomorrow morning. Your father's business, your parents' home, and several associated properties. I wanted to give you advance notice in case any family members try to contact you." "Tomorrow? 6 a.m. We'll have multiple teams. The investigation is now officially open." He paused. "You should prepare yourself. This is going to be public. It's going to be messy." "I understand. One more thing. We're going to need you to come in and give a formal statement. Can you do that tomorrow afternoon? Yes. What time? 2 o'clock. I'll text you the address. He hung up. I sat in my hotel room and stared at the wall. Tomorrow. 6 a.m. Federal agents executing search warrants. It was really happening. I didn't sleep that night. Lay awake thinking about my father's face when agents showed up at his door. About my mother trying to maintain composure while they searched the house. About Jennifer, wondering how she'd explain this to everyone she knew. At 5:30 a.m., my phone rang. My father. I let it go to voicemail. He called again at 5:40. Then 6. Then 6:15. My mother called at 6:30. Jennifer at 6:45. I turned off my phone. At 9 a.m., I turned it back on. 23 missed calls. 17 voicemails. 42 text messages. The voicemails were what I expected. My father, angry and confused, demanding to know what was happening. My mother, crying, saying they'd been raided by federal agents. Jennifer, hysterical, asking if I knew anything about this, if I had any idea why the FBI would be interested in Dad's business. I deleted them all. The text messages were worse. My father called me a traitor. My mother begged me to call her back. Jennifer said horrible things about me, about what kind of person would stand by while his family was being destroyed. The last message was from Jennifer, sent at 8:45. I know this was you. I don't know how, but I know. You're going to regret this for the rest of your life. I put my phone on airplane mode and drove to Catherine's office. Have you heard from them? She asked. Voicemails, texts. I haven't responded. Good. Don't. They'll try to manipulate you, make you feel guilty, maybe even threaten you. The moment you engage, you give them leverage. They already raided the properties? This morning. Morrison said it went smoothly. They have boxes of documents, hard drives, everything. It'll take weeks to process it all, but initial findings support everything you provided. What happens now? Now we wait. The prosecutors will build their case. Could take months. Eventually there will be charges, arrests, probably a trial. You'll likely be called as a witness. And Jennifer? The house? Catherine leaned back in her chair. That's trickier. The house was transferred legally, even if the circumstances were coercive. We could potentially argue that the transfer was made under duress, but that's a separate civil matter. The criminal case takes priority. So she gets to keep it? For now, probably. But depending on what charges she faces, if she faces charges, there may be asset seizures down the line. Some of her assets could be considered proceeds of fraud. It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was the answer I expected. I gave my formal statement that afternoon. Sat in a windowless room with Morrison and another agent and walked them through everything again. Where I'd found the documents, when I'd realized what they meant, how I'd verified the information. They recorded everything, had me sign papers confirming my testimony was truthful. You did the right thing, Morrison said as I was leaving. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. But you did. I drove back to the hotel. Ordered Chinese food. Ate it alone while watching television I couldn't focus on. My phone rang at 11 p.m. Emily. I heard, she said when I answered. About your family. It's all over social media. People are saying your dad's company was raided by federal agents. Yeah. Are you okay? The question surprised me. Emily and I hadn't been close in months, not since she'd started dating someone else. I didn't think she cared anymore. I'm fine. Nathan. Her voice was gentle. Are you really fine? I almost lied. Almost said yes, hung up, went back to my takeout. But something in her tone made me pause. No, I said. I'm not fine. Do you want to talk about it? So I did. Not everything, not the evidence I'd gathered or the months of planning. But the blackmail. The house. The feeling of sitting at that kitchen table while my father threatened to destroy everything I'd built. Emily listened. Didn't interrupt, didn't judge. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. They deserved it, she said finally. Whatever's happening to them, they deserved it. You think so? You're not the bad guy here. You know that, right? I wanted to believe her. Wanted to feel righteous and justified and certain. But mostly I just felt tired. Thanks for calling, I said. Call me if you need anything. I mean it. She hung up. I sat in the dark hotel room and wondered if she was right. If doing the right thing was supposed to feel this hollow. The story broke publicly 2 days later. Local news picked it up first, prominent local businessmen under federal investigation, then regional outlets. By Monday it was all over social media. People I hadn't spoken to in years were messaging me, asking if I'd heard, if I knew what was happening. I didn't respond to any of them. My father's construction company shut down within a week. The bank froze his accounts. Clients started pulling contracts, demanding refunds, threatening lawsuits. Carl, the business partner, hired a lawyer and started cooperating with investigators. My mother stopped calling after the first few days. Jennifer kept sending messages, but they became less angry and more desperate. Please call me back. I need to talk to you. Whatever you think Dad did, I wasn't part of it. That last one almost made me laugh. The evidence I'd provided included clear documentation of her involvement. She had to know that. 6 weeks after the raid, formal charges came down. My father was indicted on 19 counts, including fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. My mother was charged as an accomplice on 6 counts. Jennifer was charged with accepting fraudulent payments and conspiracy to commit fraud, 4 counts. The bail hearing was a circus. News cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions, my family being led into the courthouse in handcuffs. I watched it on television from my new apartment, a small one-bedroom I'd rented across town. Nothing like my house, but it was mine, paid for with my own money. My father's lawyer tried to paint him as a victim of overzealous prosecution. Said the charges were exaggerated, that any impropriety was accidental, the result of poor record-keeping rather than intentional fraud. The judge wasn't buying it. Set bail at $500,000. My mother's bail was set lower, $200,000. Jennifer's was $100,000. They all made bail. Some wealthy friend of my father's posted it, probably someone who owed him a favor and hadn't yet realized how toxic the association had become. 2 days after the bail hearing, Jennifer showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock and looked through the peephole. Saw her standing there, looking smaller than I remembered. No baby this time. Just her, wearing jeans and a jacket, looking tired. I didn't open the door. "Nathan, I know you're in there," she said. "Please. I just need 5 minutes." I stayed silent. "I know you're angry. I know you think what happened with the house wasn't fair. But I didn't know, I swear I didn't know about any of the other stuff. About Dad's business. I just needed help." She waited. I watched her through the peephole, saw her wipe at her eyes. "You're going to testify against us, aren't you? The lawyer said you might. Said you were the one who brought all this to the FBI. Still I said nothing. I have a daughter, Nathan. She's 2 months old. If I go to prison, what happens to her? Have you thought about that?" I thought about it every day. Thought about that baby, about how none of this was her fault, about how she'd grow up knowing her mother was a convicted criminal because her uncle had turned her in. But I also thought about sitting at that kitchen table. About my father's hand on my shoulder. About Jennifer standing by the window, looking satisfied. "Please," Jennifer said. Her voice broke. "Please just talk to me." I walked away from the door. Went into my bedroom, closed the door, and put in headphones. 20 minutes later, when I checked the peephole again, she was gone. The trial was set for January, 7 months away. The prosecutors wanted time to organize the massive amount of evidence. My lawyer, Catherine, was still representing me, even though technically I was a witness, not a defendant, said it would probably be pushed back even further. In the meantime, I tried to build a normal life. Went to work, paid my rent, saw Emily occasionally for coffee. We weren't dating again, but we were friendly. That felt like enough. My father's lawyer tried to contact me 3 times. Wanted to discuss my testimony, wanted to understand what I thought I knew, wanted to work out some kind of arrangement. I referred him to Catherine and stopped answering unknown numbers. In November, Carl cut a deal. Pled guilty to lesser charges in exchange for cooperation. The prosecutors were thrilled, they had someone on the inside now, someone who could testify about how the schemes actually worked. My father's lawyer called it a betrayal. Said Carl was lying to save himself. But the evidence backed up everything Carl said. December brought more indictments. 2 other business associates, a bank manager who'd helped hide some of the accounts, an accountant who'd filed fraudulent tax returns. The case kept growing, kept spreading. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone in my apartment, ate Chinese food again, watched movies. Emily invited me to her family's celebration, but I declined. Didn't feel right, imposing on someone else's holiday. The trial started on January 15th. I was there every day, sitting in the back of the courtroom, watching. The prosecution was methodical. Built their case piece by piece, document by document. Called witnesses who testified about the bid rigging, the shell companies, the offshore accounts. Called Carl, who explained in excruciating detail how the schemes had worked. Called me. I took the stand on day 9. Swore to tell the truth. Met my father's eyes across the courtroom and didn't look away. The prosecutor asked me to explain how I discovered the evidence. I did. Explained about house sitting, about the unlocked file cabinet, about the months of investigation that followed. "Did anyone ask you to do this investigation?" the prosecutor asked. "No." "Did you receive any compensation for providing this evidence to the FBI?" "No." "Why did you come forward?" I hesitated. Looked at my father again, then at my mother, then at Jennifer. Because they tried to blackmail me, I said. They threatened to destroy my life unless I gave my sister my house. I signed the papers because I didn't have a choice. And then I realized that if they could do that to me, they'd probably done worse to other people. So I looked into it. And I found out I was right. My father's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive during cross-examination. Suggested I was motivated by jealousy, by sibling rivalry, by resentment. Pointed out that I'd been the one to snoop through private documents, to invade my parents' privacy, to betray family trust. You waited months to come forward, he said. You gathered evidence in secret, never told your family what you were doing. Doesn't that seem calculated? Manipulative? I was protecting myself, I said. They were blackmailing me. I needed leverage. So you admit this was about revenge? It was about justice. The judge called for a recess after that. When we reconvened, my father's lawyer tried a different approach. Brought up Rachel, the affair, the incident at my office 10 years ago. You've made mistakes, he said. Serious mistakes that hurt people. Do you think you're qualified to judge others? This isn't about judgment, I said. It's about the law. My father broke it. So did my mother and my sister. They got caught. That's not my fault. The trial lasted 5 weeks. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Guilty on all counts for my father. Guilty on 5 of 6 counts for my mother. Guilty on 3 of 4 counts for Jennifer. Sentencing came 2 months later. My father got 15 years. My mother got 7. Jennifer got 5, with the possibility of parole after 3 if she maintained good behavior. The judge cited the extensive nature of the fraud, the amount of money involved, and the betrayal of public trust. Said people in positions of privilege had a responsibility to act ethically, and when they failed to do so, consequences had to be severe. I wasn't in the courtroom for sentencing. Watched it on the news later that evening, saw my father being led away in handcuffs, saw my mother crying, saw Jennifer staring at nothing. The house, my house, was seized as part of the asset forfeiture. Turned out the money Jennifer had used as a down payment for the transfer, money she'd claimed was from her husband's insurance settlement, had actually come from one of the fraudulent accounts. The bank put it up for sale in May. I drove by once, saw the for sale sign in the yard, the garden I'd planted growing wild and untended. I didn't make an offer. Couldn't stomach the idea of living there now, knowing everything that had happened. It sold to a young family in July. I hope they're happy there. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I wish I'd handled things differently, kept quiet, let sleeping dogs lie. I don't. What my family did was wrong. Not just the blackmail, though that was wrong too, but the fraud, the lies, the years of illegal activity. They stole money from taxpayers, rigged contracts that should have been fair competitions, hid assets to avoid paying taxes. They broke the law repeatedly, confidently, assuming they'd never get caught. And maybe they wouldn't have, if they'd left me alone. If they'd let me keep my house, if they hadn't threatened me, if they'd been content with what they already had. But they got greedy. They pushed too far. And that was their mistake, not mine. I still have the folder on my laptop. The one labeled Tax Documents 2015. I keep it as a reminder that sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones most willing to hurt you. That family can be a weapon when it wants to be. That the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. Jennifer writes me sometimes from prison. Long letters about how sorry she is, how she's changed, how she's getting counseling and taking responsibility. She tells me about her daughter, about how the baby is being raised by her husband's parents now, about how she's trying to be a good mother from a distance. I read the letters. Don't respond. Don't know what I'd say if I did. My mother writes too. Shorter letters, less frequent. Mostly she just says she misses me, that she hopes I'm doing well, that she understands why I did what I did even if she can't forgive it. My father doesn't write. According to my mother's letters, he refuses to acknowledge that I exist. Tells people he only has 2 children now, that his son died years ago. Maybe that's for the best. I moved again last year. Bought a small condo in a neighborhood I like, closer to work. It's not as big as my house was, doesn't have the yard or the finished basement. But it's mine. Legally, legitimately, undeniably mine. Emily and I are dating again. Took it slow this time, spent months just talking, rebuilding trust. She knows everything now, about Rachel, about my family, about the trial. She says it doesn't change how she sees me. I'm not sure I believe her. But I want to. Last week I got a letter from Catherine. She'd heard through legal channels that my father was appealing his conviction. Claims the evidence was obtained illegally, that his rights were violated, that I had no right to access his private documents. The appeal probably won't go anywhere. Multiple legal experts have already reviewed the case and confirmed that everything was done properly. But it means more time thinking about this, more time in court, more time reliving everything. Part of me wishes it were over. Wishes I could close this chapter completely, move on, forget my family ever existed. But another part of me knows that's impossible. Some things you carry forever. Some choices define you whether you want them to or not. I made my choice on that Tuesday in my parents' kitchen. When I signed those papers with shaking hands. When I decided that being pushed around, being threatened, being forced to surrender what was mine wasn't something I could live with. They thought they could control me with fear and shame. Thought they could leverage one mistake I'd made a decade ago into lifelong compliance. They were wrong. I don't know if that makes me strong or vindictive or just stubborn. Don't know if I'm the hero or the villain in this story. Most days I think I'm neither. I'm just someone who got tired of being pushed around and pushed back. And if that makes me a bad son, a bad brother, a bad person, well, I can live with that. Because the alternative was living in fear. Was letting them define my life, control my choices, determine my worth based on their needs and their greed. I chose freedom instead. Chose justice, even when it was hard. Even when it meant destroying my family. Even when it meant living with the guilt and the doubt and the knowledge that I'm responsible for putting my own mother and sister behind bars. Some nights I still can't sleep. Lie awake thinking about my father in prison, about my mother counting down years, about Jennifer's daughter growing up without her mom. Think about whether there was another way, a better way, a way that didn't end with everything broken. But then I remember my father's hand on my shoulder. Remember Jennifer's smirk by the window. Remember signing away the house I'd worked so hard for, the home I'd built with my own money and my own hands. And I remember that they made their choices too. They chose fraud over honesty. They chose greed over integrity. They chose to threaten and manipulate rather than asking for help honestly. I just refused to be their victim. The folder is still on my laptop. I keep it backed up in 3 different places now, just in case. Not because I think I'll need it again, the criminal case is solid, the evidence is public record now, but because I want to remember. Want to remember that I'm not powerless. That I'm not the scared 23-year-old who got blindsided by someone else's lies. That I'm not the person my family thought they could control with threats and shame. I'm the person who fought back. Who gathered evidence methodically, who built a case carefully, who brought down people I loved because they crossed a line I couldn't uncross. And if that's my legacy, if that's what people remember about me, then so be it. I'd rather be known for fighting back than for giving up. Last month I drove past my parents' house. It's on the market too now, part of the asset forfeiture. The lawn is overgrown, the paint is peeling, and there's a bank-owned sign in the window. I didn't stop. Just drove past slowly, taking it in. The house where I grew up. Where I learned to ride a bike and had birthday parties and spent Christmas mornings opening presents. It looked smaller than I remembered. Sadder. But I didn't feel sad looking at it. Didn't feel angry either. Just felt nothing. Like it was a house that used to matter and didn't anymore. That's how I know I made the right choice. Because when I think about what I lost, the family dinners, the holiday traditions, the relationship with my parents and sister, I don't miss them. Don't wish things were different. I miss the idea of them. Miss the family I thought I had, before I found out what they were really like. But that family was never real. It was a performance, carefully maintained, built on lies and money and the assumption that they could do whatever they wanted without consequences. I just gave them the consequences they'd been dodging for years. And now I'm free. Free to build a life that's actually mine, with people who actually care about me, doing work that actually matters. Free from the weight of their expectations, their manipulations, their endless demands. It cost me a house. Cost me a family. Cost me nights of sleep and days of doubt and moments when I wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake. But I'd pay it again. I'd pay it twice, because the alternative, living under their control, letting them dictate my life through fear and shame, watching them get away with everything they'd done, that would have cost me something far more valuable. It would have cost me myself. So yeah. I turned in my own family. Sent my father to prison for 15 years, my mother for 7, my sister for 5. Destroyed our reputation, scattered our assets, made sure everyone in our town knows exactly what kind of people they really were. And I'm not sorry. Some people will think that makes me cold. Heartless. A traitor to the people who raised me. And maybe they're right. Maybe there is something missing in me, some capacity for forgiveness or loyalty or family bonds that normal people have and I don't. But I don't think so. I think I just reached a point where self-preservation mattered more than family obligation. Where doing what was right mattered more than maintaining the peace. They drew the line. They made the threat. They pushed me into that corner and assumed I'd stay there. They were wrong. And now they're the ones paying for it. I live alone in my small condo. Work my job. See Emily on weekends. Have coffee with Catherine occasionally, talking about legal cases and ethical dilemmas. Have a quiet life that's mine and mine alone. It's not perfect. It's not what I imagined when I was younger, when I still believed family meant unconditional love and support. But it's honest. It's real. It's built on choices I made, consequences I accepted, truths I refused to hide. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. 3 years have passed since the sentencing. 3 years of rebuilding, of learning to exist in a world where my family is just a memory and a collection of court documents. Emily and I got engaged last month. Small proposal, nothing dramatic, just the two of us at dinner, talking about the future, and I realized I didn't want to imagine it without her. She said yes before I even finished asking. Said she'd been waiting for me to figure it out. We're planning a small wedding. Her family, a few friends. No one from my side, obviously. Her parents know the whole story, she told them early on, said she wouldn't start a relationship built on secrets. They were cautious at first, understandably. But they've come around. Her father even told me once that he respected what I did, that it took courage to stand up to family like that. I'm not sure it was courage. Felt more like survival at the time. But I'll take the compliment. Work has been good. I got promoted 8 months ago, managing a small team now. The Rachel incident hasn't come up, my father never followed through on his threats, never sent those emails or made those calls. All that leverage, he thought he had disappeared the moment the federal agents showed up at his door. Funny how blackmail loses its power when the blackmailer is facing 15 years in prison. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about that. If he lies awake in his cell realizing that threatening me was the catalyst for everything that followed. That if he'd just let me keep my house, if he'd found another way to help Jennifer, if he'd been content with his successful construction business instead of constantly scheming for more, maybe he'd still be free. Probably not, though. Men like my father don't tend toward self-reflection. They tend toward blame. And I'm an easy target. I saw Carl a few months ago. Ran into him at a coffee shop downtown, both of us reaching for the same newspaper. He recognized me immediately, went pale, looked like he might bolt. "It's fine," I said. "I'm not angry." He relaxed slightly. "I never thanked you for what you did. I was in deep, and I didn't know how to get out. Your evidence, it gave me a way out." We talked for 20 minutes. He'd served 18 months, got out early for cooperation. He's working construction again, but for someone else now, doing honest work. Says he sleeps better at night. I told him I understood. We shook hands. Haven't seen him since. Jennifer gets out next year. 3 years served, eligible for parole. I don't know what I'll do when that happens. Part of me hopes she'll just disappear, start over somewhere else, never try to contact me again. But I know Jennifer. She'll want reconciliation. She'll want me to meet her daughter, now almost 4 years old. She'll want to explain and apologize and find some way to make me understand. I don't think I can do that. Don't think I can sit across from her and pretend we're family again. Don't think I can look at that little girl and not think about how her mother tried to steal everything I'd worked for. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe time will soften things. Maybe I'll wake up one day and find that forgiveness is possible after all. Just not today. My mother writes less frequently now. Once every few months, short notes about prison life, about the books she's reading, about how she's taking classes to prepare for life after release. She has 4 more years to go. She'll be 63 when she gets out. She never directly addresses what happened. Never says "I'm sorry we blackmailed you" or "we shouldn't have done what we did." Just talks around it, mentions how she's learned a lot about herself and made mistakes she regrets. I appreciate the attempt, even if it's inadequate. The condo has started to feel like home. I've painted the walls, hung some art, bought furniture that actually fits the space. Emily stays over most nights now. We're talking about buying a house together after the wedding, something bigger, something we can grow into. I'm careful about the paperwork this time. Make sure everything is in both our names, make sure all the documentation is clear and legal and can't be challenged. Emily thinks I'm being paranoid. She's probably right. But I can't help it. Once you've had something stolen from you through manipulation and legal maneuvering, you never quite trust the system again. Last week I got a notification that my father's appeal had been denied. Final decision, no more challenges. 15 years, and he'll serve every one of them unless he dies first. I didn't feel triumphant when I read it. Didn't feel vindicated or satisfied. Just felt tired. Tired of thinking about it, tired of carrying it, tired of having this be the defining story of my adult life. Emily found me on the couch that evening, staring at nothing. "You okay?" she asked. My father's appeal was denied. She sat next to me, took my hand. "How do you feel?" "Empty," I said. And it was true. Not sad, not happy, just empty. You know it's okay to feel complicated about this, right? He's still your father. You're allowed to miss him, even after everything. I thought about that. Tried to find some kernel of missing him, some thread of grief or loss or longing. Came up empty. "I don't miss him," I said. I miss what I thought he was. But that person never existed. Emily squeezed my hand. We sat like that for a long time. The truth is, I'm still figuring out who I am in the aftermath of all this. Still learning to exist as someone who did what I did, who made the choices I made, who valued justice over family and doesn't regret it. Some days that feels powerful. Other days it just feels lonely. But I'm here. I'm building something real. And maybe that's all anyone can do, build something honest from the wreckage of something false. My family thought they could define me. Thought they could shape me into whatever they needed me to be through threats and manipulation and the weight of family obligation. They were wrong. I define myself instead. And whatever comes next, marriage, career, life, it'll be on my terms. Not theirs. Never theirs again. Story 4.
My babysitter thought I didn't understand Spanish. I'm fluent, I just never told her. So when she whispered on the phone to my husband, she'll never see it coming. Once we're in Mexico with the kids, she can't do anything, I stayed silent. For 2 weeks, I watched them pack my children's favorite toys into donation boxes and smile at me like nothing was wrong. I didn't cry. I didn't confront them. The day before their planned trip, I simply handed my lawyer recordings of every conversation. That morning, my husband woke up to frozen bank accounts and cops at the door. I smiled at her and said in perfect Spanish, "Buen viaje." Have a nice trip. I recorded my husband and our babysitter planning to kidnap my children for 2 weeks straight, and I didn't say a word until the cops showed up. That's the short version. The one that makes me sound calculated and cold. But sitting here now, 7 months after everything exploded, I need you to understand how it actually happened. Because when people hear the story, they always ask the same thing: how did you not lose it? How did you just watch? The truth is messier than that. It started on a Tuesday in March. I remember because Tuesdays were my long days at the clinic. I'm a pediatric nurse, which is ironic considering what almost happened, and I usually got home around 7. Sophia, our babysitter, had been with us for 8 months by then. 23 years old, from Guadalajara, studying early childhood education at the community college. My husband Marcus found her through some app. I didn't love the idea of hiring someone so young, but my mom had just been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, and I was drowning. Sophia was good with the kids. Great, actually. Emma was 5 and going through a phase where she only wanted to wear tutus to preschool. Our son Liam was 2.5, still working on potty training, still waking up twice a night. Sophia handled both of them with this easy patience I envied. She taught Emma Spanish songs. She never complained about Liam's tantrums in the grocery store. Marcus loved her. That should have been my first clue, but hindsight is brutally clear, isn't it? That Tuesday, I came home early. One of my patients had canceled, and I was exhausted from 3 double shifts in a row. I just wanted to lie down for 20 minutes before dinner. I parked in the driveway instead of pulling into the garage. My usual spot was blocked by Marcus's truck, and I was too tired to care. I came in through the front door, quiet because I thought maybe the kids were napping. The house felt still. Afternoon light filtered through the living room curtains, catching dust motes in the air. I could hear Sophia's voice from the kitchen. She was on the phone, speaking rapid Spanish and laughing. Here's the thing, my maternal grandmother was from Oaxaca. I grew up spending summers in her village, sleeping in hammocks, learning to make tamales at 4 in the morning. Spanish was my first language, technically, though we spoke English at home once I started school. But I never lost it. It's woven into how I think, how I dream sometimes. I never mentioned this to Sophia. It never came up. She spoke to the kids in Spanish, taught them little phrases, and I smiled and asked her to translate. I don't know why I didn't tell her. Maybe I liked hearing what she said to Emma and Liam when she thought I couldn't understand. Maybe some instinct in me held back. I was setting my bag down in the entryway when I heard her say it. No, en serio. Él dice que ella ni siquiera sospecha nada. He says she doesn't even suspect anything. My hand froze on the strap of my purse. Something in her tone, conspiratorial, almost giddy, made my stomach tighten. Yeshe, Sophia continued, her voice dropping lower. Pero Marcus tiene razón. Una vez que estemos en México con los niños, ¿qué puede hacer ella? No puede perseguirnos allá. Why los niños son tan chiquitos, ni se van a acordar. I know. But Marcus is right. Once we're in Mexico with the kids, what can she do? She can't chase us there. And the kids are so little, they won't even remember. The floor seemed to tilt. I pressed my back against the wall, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. She laughed again, softer this time. Intimate. Amor, yo también te extraño. Pero ya casi, ¿verdad? 2 semanas más vaya. Libre. I miss you too, love. But it's almost time, right? 2 more weeks and that's it. Free. There was more, details about flights, about packing, about how Marcus had already opened a bank account in Monterrey under a different name. Monterrey, not Guadalajara where Sophia's family lived. That detail stuck with me later, once I could think clearly. They weren't going to her hometown where people knew her, where questions might be asked. They were going somewhere new, where they could disappear into the sprawl of Mexico's third largest city. Somewhere Marcus probably had business connections from his real estate work. Somewhere they'd planned carefully. But I couldn't process strategy in that moment. My brain was screaming one word, over and over, Mexico. My kids. 2 weeks. I backed out of the house so quietly I don't even remember doing it. One moment I was in the entryway, the next I was sitting in my car in the driveway, staring at my own front door like it belonged to someone else's life. My first instinct was to run back inside. To scream. To grab Sophia by her hair but I didn't. Something in me went very, very still. I sat in that car for maybe 10 minutes, just breathing. Then I started the engine, backed out, drove around the block, and came back. This time I pulled into the garage normally, made noise closing the car door, called out that I was home. Sophia came to meet me with Liam on her hip. She was smiling. Mrs. Chen. You're home early. Everything okay? Her accent was light, her English nearly perfect. She looked concerned. Genuine. I wanted to throw up. Just a cancellation, I said. My voice sounded normal. I don't know how. Where's Emma? Playing in her room. We made friendship bracelets earlier. She wants to show you. Great. Thanks, Sophia. She handed Liam to me. He wrapped his chubby arms around my neck, and I held him so tight he squirmed. Over his shoulder, I watched Sophia gather her backpack and phone. Same time tomorrow? She asked. Yes. Same time. She left. I locked the door behind her, carried Liam upstairs, and sat on Emma's bedroom floor while she showed me a crooked bracelet made of pink and purple beads. I praised it. I helped her make another one. I gave both kids their dinner, read them stories, put them to bed. Then I went into my bedroom, closed the door, and broke down so quietly I barely made a sound. Marcus came home around 9. He worked in commercial real estate, always staying late for client meetings, or so he said. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea I hadn't touched. He kissed the top of my head, casual, familiar. I wanted to flinch away. Hey babe. Kids down? Yeah. 7:30. Sophia have any trouble? I looked up at him. Really looked. He was still handsome, that's what hurt. 10 years of marriage, 2 kids, and he still had those broad shoulders, that easy smile. He looked like the man I'd chosen. The man I'd trusted with everything. No, I said. She was great. He opened the fridge, pulled out leftovers. I watched him move around our kitchen like he owned it. Like he wasn't planning to steal my children and disappear into another country in 2 weeks. I needed proof. That's what kept me from screaming at him right then. I needed evidence that would hold up, that would stop them, that would keep my kids safe. My word against his wouldn't be enough. A single overheard phone call wouldn't be enough. Not if they were already planning this carefully. So I started recording everything. The next morning, I went to Best Buy on my way to work. I bought 3 small recording devices disguised as USB drives and a voice-activated recorder no bigger than a car key. I felt insane. I felt like I was in a movie, except my hands were shaking so badly I dropped my credit card twice at checkout. At home that evening, I placed one recorder in the kitchen, hidden behind the coffee maker we never used. One in the living room, tucked into the bookshelf between 2 photo albums that Marcus never looked at. One in his home office, stuck under his desk with putty. I downloaded an app that could recover deleted text messages. I waited until Marcus was in the shower, then spent 7 minutes scrolling through his phone with my heart in my throat. Nothing. He'd been careful. But he had a second phone, I'd seen it once, months ago, and he'd said it was a work thing. I'd believed him. I found that second phone the next night, buried in his gym bag under dirty socks. It was password protected. I tried his birthday. Mine. The kids. Nothing. I took photos of it, The case, the brand, everything, then put it back exactly as I'd found it. By day 3, I had 17 hours of recordings. The devices were voice activated, so they captured everything: conversations, phone calls, even the TV running in the background. Most of it was useless noise, but I listened to every minute during my breaks at work, wearing earbuds in my car, fast forwarding through silence. Most of it was mundane. Sophia singing to Liam. Emma asking for snacks. The mailman at the door. But then, on Thursday afternoon, I heard Sophia on the phone again. This time she was in the living room while the kids watched a show, and she thought they were too distracted to listen. Sí, mami. No te preocupes. Marcus ya arreglo todo. Los pasaportes de los niños están listos. Yes, Mom. Don't worry. Marcus already arranged everything. The kids' passports are ready. My son had a passport. I'd gotten it for him last year when my brother got married in Vancouver. But Emma? I'd never applied for one. She was born in early 2020, and between the lockdowns and everything else, we'd never traveled internationally with her. I talked about getting her one, but never followed through. Which meant Marcus had done it. Without telling me. Forged my signature, probably. Used photos I didn't approve. Planned this for months. I sat in my car in the clinic parking lot during my lunch break and played that recording 5 times. Each time, I felt more numb. I want to be honest about something. There were moments during those 2 weeks when I thought about confronting them. When I wanted to grab Marcus by the shoulders and scream, "How could you do this?" When I wanted to throw Sophia out of my house and never let her near my children again. But I didn't. Because I was terrified. If I confronted them, what would stop them from leaving immediately? From grabbing the kids during one of my shifts and disappearing before I could react? They already had passports. They already had money moved. If they knew I knew, I'd lose any advantage I had. So I played the role. I smiled at Sophia when she arrived each morning. I asked her about her classes. I thanked her for braiding Emma's hair. I watched her buckle my children into car seats for trips to the park, and I waved from the doorway like a trusting, oblivious mother. At night, I lay next to Marcus in our bed, and I didn't move when he touched my shoulder. I kept breathing steady, pretending to be asleep, while he checked his phone and texted someone. The second phone, I assumed. The one I couldn't access. During those 2 weeks, I learned more than I wanted to about my own marriage. I learned that Sophia had been sleeping with Marcus for at least 4 months. I found a hotel receipt in his wallet from November, stamped with a time that matched one of his client dinners. Room service charges for 2, champagne at midnight. I learned that he'd been stealing from our joint account in small increments, 200 here, 300 there, moving money offshore. Never enough at once to trigger alerts, but over months it added up to nearly $30,000. I learned that he'd told her he loved her. That he'd promised her a new life, a fresh start where they could be a real family. That she believed him when he said I was cold and distant, that our marriage was already over, that I wouldn't fight for custody. I learned that my husband was not the man I'd married, and maybe he never had been. The recordings captured everything. Marcus on the phone with a lawyer in Mexico, asking about residency requirements. Sophia talking to her mother about schools in Monterrey. Marcus and Sophia together in our living room after I'd left for a night shift, discussing how they'd tell the kids, what story they'd use. "We'll tell them she had to work," Marcus said in one recording. "That she'll visit later. They're young enough, they'll adjust." "But what if Emma asks why we're not coming back?" Sophia's voice, uncertain. "We'll figure it out. Kids are resilient." They talked about my children like furniture being moved to a new house. There was one night, about a week into my surveillance, when I almost broke. It was Thursday, late. I'd just gotten home from a shift where we'd lost a patient, a 7-year-old with leukemia who we all thought was going to make it. I was raw, exhausted, my emotional reserves completely drained. I came home to find Marcus reading Liam a bedtime story. Through the baby monitor, I could hear his voice, soft and gentle, doing all the character voices that made Liam giggle. He sounded like such a good father. He sounded like the man I'd fallen in love with. For a moment, just one terrible, weak moment, I doubted myself. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe there was some explanation. Maybe I was being paranoid, letting fear and stress make me hear things that weren't really there. Then my phone buzzed. An alert from the recorder in the living room. Sophia had come over. Marcus had texted her to come after I'd left for work. I pulled up the recording and listened to them discuss which of Emma's toys to pack, which ones to leave behind so I wouldn't notice anything missing. Her doll collection, Sophia said. She'll want those. Just the favorites, Marcus replied. We can't pack everything. It'll be obvious. My doubt evaporated. I saved the recording, time-stamped it, added it to the growing file Patricia would need. Then I went upstairs and kissed my sleeping children, one after the other, breathing in the smell of their shampoo and knowing I was doing the right thing. Even if it was killing me. By the second week, I had a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Vance, and she specialized in family law and international custody cases. I found her through a recommendation from a colleague whose sister had gone through something similar. Patricia didn't sugarcoat anything. You need documentation, she said during our first meeting, which I scheduled during a lunch break and lied to the office about. Recordings are good. Financial records are better. Anything that shows intent and premeditation. And we need to move fast. If he gets those kids across the border, getting them back becomes exponentially harder. How hard? She looked at me with something close to sympathy. Mexico doesn't always cooperate with Hague Convention requests. If he has family there, if he disappears into a smaller town, you could be fighting for years. And in the meantime, your children grow up without you. The words hit like a physical blow. Years. My children growing up without me, learning Spanish in a place I couldn't reach, their memories of me fading like old photographs. I gave her everything I had. The recordings, I compiled them into dated files by then, nearly 40 hours total. The phone photos of the second phone. The bank statements I'd printed secretly at work, showing the systematic withdrawals. The screenshots of deleted texts I'd managed to recover using that app. Hotel receipts. Credit card charges from restaurants Marcus claimed were client dinners but where he'd paid for 2 meals, 2 drinks, 2 desserts. She listened to Sophia's voice on those recordings with a neutral expression, taking notes in precise handwriting. When Sophia laughed, that intimate, knowing laugh, Patricia's pen paused for just a second before continuing. This is good, Patricia said finally. This is actionable. We can get an emergency custody order. Freeze the accounts. Stop them at the border if they try to run early. But you need to be prepared for this to get ugly. It's already ugly. It's going to get worse. She was right. I found the plane tickets on a Sunday, 11 days after that first phone call. Marcus had left his laptop open in his office while he took Emma to a birthday party. I scrolled through his email. He'd been sloppy, didn't even use a separate account, and found the confirmation. 3 tickets to Monterey, departing Wednesday morning at 6. 2 adults, 1 child under 12, 1 lap infant. Wednesday. 3 days away. They weren't even going to tell me. They were just going to vanish with my babies while I was at work. I took photos of everything. Then I called Patricia. We move now, she said. I'll file the emergency petition today. We'll have a hearing first thing Tuesday morning. Can you keep your composure until then? I have to. 1 more day. They can't know anything's wrong. If they suspect you're onto them, I know. That Sunday dinner was the hardest thing I've ever done. Marcus grilled chicken in the backyard while I watched him through the kitchen window. He looked relaxed, at ease, flipping meat on the grill with the same confidence he'd had at our wedding barbecue 10 years ago. Sophia came over. She did that sometimes on weekends, played with the kids, stayed for meals. Part of the family, or so it seemed. She sat at my kitchen table and told me about a paper she was writing for her child development class. About attachment theory, ironically. About how children form bonds with their primary caregivers and the trauma that separation can cause. She asked for my input, professional advice from a pediatric nurse who saw these situations in clinical settings. I gave it to her. I explained the research. I talked about children who had been removed from parents, about foster care trauma, about how even well-meaning separations could cause lasting psychological damage. I watched her face as I spoke, searching for any flicker of recognition, any sign that she understood what she was planning to do to my children. There was nothing. Just earnest attention, careful note-taking, grateful smiles. You're so knowledgeable, she said. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. This will really help my paper. I passed the salad and tried not to be sick. Emma climbed into Sophia's lap and showed her a drawing. Liam toddled over to Marcus and raised his arms to be picked up. I watched them, this fake little family they'd constructed in my house, using my children as props in their fantasy, and I felt something inside me turn to ice. When Sophia left that night, she hugged me goodbye. Thank you so much for dinner, Mrs. Chen. You're always so kind to me. I hugged her back. Of course, Sophia. See you tomorrow. Marcus kissed me good night in our bedroom. I let him. I stared at the ceiling afterward and planned. Tuesday morning, I dropped the kids at my mother's house before dawn. She'd been confused when I'd called the night before asking for this favor, but she agreed. She was between chemo treatments, still weak but stable, and she promised to keep them safe. "What's going on?" she asked as I buckled Liam into the portable crib I'd brought. "I'll explain later, Mama. I promise. Just don't let anyone take them. Not Marcus. Not Sophia. No one but me." Her expression shifted. She grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "Mija, what happened?" "Later. I have to go. I love you." The emergency hearing was at 8. Patricia had filed everything perfectly, a 40-page petition with exhibits, photographs, transcripts of the recordings translated and notarized. She'd worked through the weekend to prepare it. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and no patience, read through the evidence while Marcus's lawyer, some guy he'd hired that morning in a panic, floundered through objections. Marcus sat across the courtroom from me. He looked stunned. Betrayed, even. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. He kept trying to catch my eye, his expression shifting between anger and something that might have been pleading. I didn't look away. I wanted him to see exactly what he'd lost. The judge asked questions. Clear, pointed questions. "Mr. Chen, did you apply for a passport for your daughter Emma without your wife's knowledge or consent?" His lawyer fumbled. "Your Honor, my client. I'm asking Mr. Chen." Her voice cut through the courtroom. Marcus hesitated too long? That hesitation told her everything. The judge ordered the bank accounts frozen. Granted me temporary full custody pending a full hearing. Issued a restraining order preventing Marcus from leaving the state with the children or coming within 500 feet of our home. The whole thing took 45 minutes, but those 45 minutes felt like watching my entire life get rewritten in real time. As we left the courthouse, Marcus tried to corner me in the hallway. "You crazy," he caught himself. Lowered his voice. "You're destroying our family over what? Some misunderstanding? I can explain." "Explain what?" My voice was steady. "Come. Explain the plane tickets? The passports? The phone calls about how I'll never find you in Mexico?" His face went white. I speak Spanish, Marcus. I always have. You just never bothered to ask." I walked away before he could respond. Sophia was arrested at our house late that afternoon. The police had moved quickly, Patricia had warned them about the Wednesday flight, and they prioritized the warrant. I wasn't there, Patricia had advised me to stay away, let the police handle it, but my neighbor texted me a photo. Sophia in handcuffs on my front lawn, crying, while officers searched the house for evidence. They found bags packed for the kids. Favorite toys, clothes, Emma's stuffed rabbit that she couldn't sleep without. They found the falsified passport application for Emma in Marcus's home office. They found banking documents, email printouts, even a lease agreement for an apartment in Monterey that Marcus had signed 3 weeks earlier. Everything I'd suspected. Everything I'd feared. All of it real. All of it documented now. Marcus was charged with attempted international parental kidnapping, identity fraud for the passport, and embezzlement. Sophia faced charges as an accomplice. The district attorney told me it was one of the clearest cases she'd seen. "Most of the time, people don't have this kind of documentation," she said. "They just have suspicions. You did everything right." I didn't feel like I'd done anything right. I felt hollowed out. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Marcus pled guilty to lesser charges in exchange for dropping the kidnapping count. His lawyer convinced him it was his only option to avoid serious prison time. He got 2 years, plus probation, plus supervised visitation once he was out. He'd have to petition the court even to see photos of the kids. Sophia took a plea deal too. 6 months in county, deportation once she served her time. I never spoke to her again. My mother watched the kids during the trial. She was going through her own battle, radiation burning her skin, but she held them through their nightmares when they asked for Daddy and didn't understand why he was gone. Emma started having tantrums. Liam regressed on potty training. I took a leave from work to be with him full-time to rebuild some sense of safety. The house sold quickly. I couldn't live there anymore, couldn't walk into the kitchen without hearing Sophia's laugh or seeing Marcus at the stove. We moved into a smaller rental across town, closer to my mom. Started over. People ask me now if I regret how I handled it. If I wish I'd confronted them sooner or differently. If staying silent for those 2 weeks damaged something in me that I can't get back. Honestly? I don't know. There are nights I still wake up at 3 in the morning, my heart racing, convinced someone's breaking into the house to take my kids. There are moments when Emma mentions Sophia, she still remembers her, asks where she went, and I have to swallow back rage so thick it chokes me. But my children are here. Safe. That's what matters. The last time I saw Marcus was in court during the sentencing hearing. He looked smaller somehow. Tired. His lawyer had advised him not to speak, but as the guards let him out, he looked back at me. Just once. I don't know what he was looking for. Forgiveness? Understanding? Some acknowledgement that we'd once loved each other, that the 10 years before all this weren't completely a lie? I looked away. That night, I put the kids to bed early. Read them extra stories. Lay down between them in Emma's bed, her small body curled against my left side, Liam's hand fisted in my shirt on my right. They fell asleep within minutes, their breathing slow and steady and safe. I thought about that moment in the driveway, 2 weeks before everything exploded. How I'd sat in my car, shaking, unsure if I could even stand. How I'd made a choice in that moment to stay silent. To watch. To gather the proof I needed to keep them. People want revenge stories to feel triumphant. Clean. They want the bad guys punished and the victim vindicated and everyone lives happily ever after. But it doesn't work like that. The truth is messier. Marcus is in prison. Sophia is gone. The courts ruled in my favor. But my children still cry for their father sometimes. Emma still draws pictures of our old house and asks when we're going back. Liam has started asking where Sophia is, why she doesn't visit anymore. I don't regret what I did. I'd do it all again to keep them safe. But there's a cost to staying silent that long. To watching people you love be kind to a threat you can't stop. To playing a role so convincing you almost forget who you are underneath. Some nights, I still hear Sophia's voice in my head. That casual certainty when she said, she'll never see it coming. She was wrong about that. I saw it. I saw all of it. I just chose not to let them know until it was too late for them to run. 7 months have passed since that March morning. Emma will start first grade next fall, she turned 6 last month. Liam is talking in full sentences now, most of them questions about why the sky is blue or where butterflies go at night. My mother finished her treatment, clear scans for 6 months now, knock on wood. We're building something new. Slowly. I got a call last month from Patricia. Marcus's supervised visitation petition was denied. The judge felt it was too soon, that the children needed more stability first. Maybe in another year, she said. Maybe. I didn't cry when Patricia told me. I just thanked her, hung up the phone, and stood in my kitchen for a long time. This kitchen, where Sophia never stood. Where Marcus never cooked. Where my kids eat breakfast every morning, safe. Last week, Emma asked me to teach her Spanish. Like Sophia used to, she said, so innocently it broke something in me. But I said yes. Because my daughter should know the language her great-grandmother spoke. She should know the songs and the words and the culture that's part of her, even if it's tangled up now with everything that happened. We started with colors. Simple words. She repeated them carefully, her 6-year-old tongue wrapping around the syllables. Azul, she said, pointing at the sky. Amarillo. The sun. Rojo, I added, showing her a red block. She smiled at me, proud. Then she asked, Mama, why didn't you tell Sophia you could speak Spanish too? I looked at my daughter's open, trusting face. At her curiosity with no shadows in it yet. And I realized I couldn't explain it to her. Not really. Not in a way that made sense. I don't know, baby, I said. Sometimes grown-ups don't say things they should. It's complicated. She accepted this, the way children do, and went back to her blocks. But the question stayed with me. Why didn't I tell her? Would it have changed anything if I had? If Sophia had known from the beginning that I understood every word she said, would she have made different choices? Would Marcus? I don't think so. I think they would have just been more careful. Found other ways to whisper their plans. And I would have lost my only advantage. But some part of me wonders if my silence was a test I didn't know I was setting. If I was waiting, even before I heard that phone call, for someone to fail. To prove they couldn't be trusted. To justify whatever instinct had kept me from sharing something as basic as what languages I spoke. Maybe I saw it coming before I consciously knew anything was wrong. Or maybe that's just what I tell myself now, to make sense of how I could sit across from my husband at dinner and smile while knowing what he planned to do. There's a recording I haven't deleted. I keep it on my phone, in a folder I never open but can't bring myself to erase. It's from the day before they were supposed to leave. Sophia was saying goodbye to the kids, playing with them in the backyard while I made lunch inside. In the recording, you can hear Emma laughing. Sophia is pushing her on the swing, and Emma's shrieking with joy, begging to go higher. Liam is babbling in the background, playing with trucks in the sandbox. Sophia is singing some Spanish nursery rhyme, her voice light and affectionate. Then Emma says, "I'm gonna miss you when you go on vacation, Sophia." There's a pause. You can hear it on the recording, this beat of hesitation. Then Sophia says, so softly I almost didn't catch it the first time I listened, "I'm going to miss you too, Princessa. So much." Her voice breaks a little. Just a crack. I've listened to that recording maybe 50 times, trying to understand. Was she lying? Did she really believe she was doing something good by taking my children from me? Did she love them, in her own twisted way? Or was Marcus so convincing that she convinced herself this was somehow right? I don't have answers. I just have that pause. That break in her voice. It doesn't change anything. She still tried to take them. She still sat in my kitchen and smiled at me while planning to destroy my life. She still chose Marcus over every ethical line she should have respected as their caregiver. But that pause exists. That crack. And I can't unhear it. Sometimes people at work ask me about it. Word got around, not all the details, but enough. "I heard you went through something crazy with your ex," they'll say. "Are you okay?" I tell them I'm fine. That it's all handled. That the kids are adjusting. What I don't tell them is that I flinch sometimes when I hear Spanish in public. That I interview every new babysitter with a level of paranoia that borders on absurd. That I have nightmares where I come home to an empty house, toys abandoned on the floor, and I know immediately they're gone. I don't tell them that I check Emma's backpack every single day when she gets off the school bus, counting her possessions, making sure nothing's been packed that shouldn't be. That I have alerts on my phone for any credit activity, any travel bookings, any hint that Marcus might be released early or violate his restraining order. I don't tell them that trust, real trust, the kind where you close your eyes and believe someone will catch you, feels impossible now. That even my mother had to prove herself 3 times over before I could leave the kids with her overnight. I don't tell them I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. For something I missed. Some detail I didn't catch. Some hole in the protection I built around my children that someone will exploit. The truth is, you don't just survive something like this. You carry it. Some days it's a whisper. Some days it's screaming. But it never really goes away. What I did tell them, eventually, was that I learned something. About silence. About watching. About the difference between trust and verification. I told them that love isn't enough. That you can love someone with everything you have, build a life with them, create children with them, and still not truly know them. And that the most dangerous thing in the world is assuming you do. I told them that sometimes the best thing you can do is listen. Really listen. Not just to what people say to your face, but to what they say when they think you can't understand. To the truth that slips out in moments of carelessness. To the reality behind the performance. And I told them that keeping my children safe meant becoming someone I didn't recognize. Someone who could smile at threats. Who could lie by omission. Who could gather evidence against her own husband with hands that barely shook. I told them I don't regret it. And I don't. But I also told them that person, the one who recorded conversations and played dumb and waited with perfect patience for the moment to strike, she's still here. She's part of me now. And I'm not entirely sure what to do with her. The funny thing is, I'm actually grateful for one thing. That phone call happened when it did. In my house, where I could hear it. Where I had time to prepare. Where I could act instead of react. If they'd been more careful, if I discovered it too late, if they'd made it to Mexico with my kids before I knew anything was wrong. I don't let myself think about that timeline. About the version of this story where I come home to an empty house and a note. Where I spend years fighting international custody battles with no guarantee of winning. Where Emma and Liam grow up calling someone else mama because they're too young to remember me. That could have been my life. That almost was my life. Instead, I heard Sophia say, she'll never see it coming. And I decided she was wrong. Last month, Emma asked me if Daddy was ever coming back. We were making breakfast, scrambled eggs, her favorite, and she just dropped the question into the morning like it was nothing. Someday you might see him, I said carefully. We talked to a therapist about what to tell them. How to explain it. But not for a while. And it would be different than before. Because he did something bad? Because he made some really bad choices, yes. She thought about this while I buttered her toast. Then, did Sophia make bad choices too? Yes, baby. She did. I miss her sometimes. I know. And here's the part that hurts most, I can't tell her not to miss Sophia. I can't poison that memory for her, even though every time she mentions Sophia's name, I want to scream. Because Emma's 5. She doesn't understand betrayal yet. She just remembers someone who was kind to her. Who braided her hair and taught her songs and pushed her on the swing. The fact that those kindnesses were part of a plan to take her from me, that doesn't exist in Emma's world yet. And I don't know how to explain it without destroying something innocent in her. So I let her miss Sophia. I let her remember the good parts. And I swallow the rage. Maybe that's the real cost of what I did. Not the recording or the watching or the silence. But this, having to let my daughter love someone who tried to steal her. Having to preserve that love because she's too young to understand why she shouldn't. People want to know what happened to the second phone. Marcus's lawyer argued the police couldn't access it without his consent, and he refused. The phone company said they needed a warrant with cause, and apparently what we had wasn't enough. It's out there somewhere, evidence of whatever else he was planning. Messages I'll never read. Proof I'll never see. Patricia said it doesn't matter. We had enough. We won. But it bothers me, not knowing. What else was in there? Who else was involved? Were there other women? Other plans? Other lies I haven't uncovered yet? I think about that phone sometimes, in the dark. I imagine all the secrets it holds. All the versions of my husband that existed only in pixels and code. The man he was when I wasn't looking. Maybe it's better I don't know. Maybe knowing everything would break what little peace I've managed to build. Or maybe I'm still too much of a coward to look. Sophia's mother sent me a letter 6 months after the trial. It came to my lawyer's office. She must have gotten the address from court documents. Patricia called to ask if I wanted to see it. I said no at first. What could Sophia's mother possibly say that would change anything? Then I changed my mind. I needed to know. The letter was in Spanish. Formal, almost stilted, the kind of careful phrasing someone uses when they're not sure how their words will be received. It said Sophia had made a mistake. That she was sorry. That she'd been manipulated by Marcus, that she was young and naive and believed his promises when he told her I didn't love the children, that I neglected them, that I was planning to leave anyway. That she thought she was helping, saving them from an unhappy home. That she never meant to hurt me or the children. That she hoped, someday, I could forgive her. It was signed by Sophia's mother, but the handwriting looked young. Looping and uncertain. I think Sophia wrote it herself and had her mother sign it, or maybe her mother copied it word for word. Either way, the desperation in those sentences was palpable. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and haven't looked at it since. Because here's what I want to ask Sophia, if I ever see her again, at what point did you know it was wrong? Was it when Marcus first suggested taking the kids? When you started packing their things? When Emma hugged you goodbye, calling you her friend? Or did you never know? Did you really believe that loving Marcus meant you could have his children? That building a new life meant erasing their mother from existence? I want to ask her if she thought about me at all. If, in those 2 weeks while I was gathering evidence and falling apart in private, she ever hesitated. If she ever looked at Emma's drawings on the fridge or Liam's toys scattered on the floor and thought, this isn't mine to take. But I can't ask her. She's gone. Back to Guadalajara, to a life I'll never see. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe some questions don't have answers that would help. I started dating again last month. Just coffee with a guy from the hospital, a physical therapist named David who seems kind and steady and uncomplicated. We met in the break room one Tuesday, both reaching for the last blueberry muffin. He smiled, gestured for me to take it, made a joke about hospital cafeteria food. I laughed. It felt strange, that laugh. Like a muscle I'd forgotten how to use. He asked me to coffee the following week. I said yes before I could talk myself out of it. David knows I have kids. He knows I'm divorced. He doesn't know the details yet, and I don't know when I'll tell him. David seems patient. He doesn't push when I'm vague about my past. He just asks about Emma's first grade projects or Liam's new favorite books. He hasn't met them yet, I'm not ready for that. But someday, maybe. It's strange, trying to trust again. Even small things feel enormous. Letting him know where I live. Giving him my real phone number. Agreeing to introduce him to my mother. I find myself watching for red flags that might not exist. Analyzing his word choices. Wondering if kindness is just performance. Patricia says this is normal. That it takes time. That I should be gentle with myself. But I don't want to be this person forever. This suspicious, cautious version who can't accept a compliment without wondering what it's hiding. The weirdest part is the reactions I get when people find out. Some are sympathetic, horror at what almost happened, admiration for how I handled it. But others ask questions that feel like accusations. Did you ever think you were overreacting? Couldn't you have just talked to him? Maybe he was just planning a surprise vacation? As if I imagined the plane tickets. As if I hallucinated the passports. As if I made up hours of recorded conversations. One woman at work actually said, "Well, men get scared sometimes. Maybe he just needed space." I walked away. Because what do you say to that? How do you explain that some things aren't forgivable? People want neat explanations. They want to believe marriages don't just implode like this, that there must have been signs I missed. They want to believe they're too smart to be blindsided. But nobody sees everything. And sometimes the person sleeping next to you is someone you've never really met. I found Emma reading a book in Spanish the other day. Just a picture book from the library, simple words and bright illustrations. She was sounding out the syllables slowly, carefully, the way I taught her. "Mama, what's mariposa?" "Butterfly." She smiled, pleased with herself. "That's pretty." I sat down next to her, and we read the rest of the book together. She asked me to translate each page, and I did. And for a moment, it was just us learning together, the language itself separate from everything painful it represented. Maybe that's how we move forward. We take the pieces that were good and try to separate them from the pieces that hurt. We keep the songs and the words and the stories, and we let go of the people who twisted them into weapons. Maybe Emma can love Spanish without loving Sofia. Maybe I can speak it without hearing that phone call on repeat in my head. Maybe we can reclaim the things that were stolen and make them ours again. Or maybe I'm just hoping for too much. Trying to salvage something from the wreckage when the smartest thing would be to walk away entirely. I don't know yet. Sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet and the kids are asleep, I think about that moment in the car. The one right after I heard Sofia on the phone. When I sat in the driveway, shaking, trying to decide what to do. I think about how close I came to running inside and confronting them. How easy it would have been to let rage override reason. To scream and throw things and demand answers, and in doing so, give them enough warning to run. I think about the choice I made instead. To breathe. To plan. To wait. And I realized that in that moment, I became someone I'd never been before. Someone capable of playing a long game. Someone who could watch threats smile at my children and smile back. Someone who could share a bed with an enemy and never flinch. I became the kind of person who could do whatever it took to protect what mattered most. Patricia called it strength. My mother called it survival. David, when I finally told him an abbreviated version last week, called it heroic. But here's what I call it: necessary. Because given the same circumstances, I'd do it all again. I'd record every conversation. I'd sleep next to Marcus with evidence hidden in my phone. I'd watch Sofia braid Emma's hair and pack their toys into bags, and I wouldn't say a word until the moment was right. I'd be that cold. That calculating. That patient. Because the alternative was losing my children. And there's nothing I wouldn't do, no version of myself I wouldn't become, to keep them safe. Emma asked me yesterday if we could get a new babysitter. She's old enough now for after-school programs, but I still work long shifts at the hospital sometimes, 12-hour days that stretch past dinner time, and my mom isn't always available. Emma said her friend Madison has a babysitter who comes on those late days, plays games with her, and helps with homework. "It sounds fun," she said. I told her I'd think about it. What I didn't tell her is that I don't know if I can do it again. If I can let someone into our home, into my children's lives, with that level of trust. If I can walk away and leave them with someone who might, at any moment, decide they want something they're not entitled to have. The rational part of me knows this is unlikely. Knows Sofia was an anomaly, a perfect storm of Marcus's manipulation and her own ambition. Knows most babysitters are just college students looking for extra money, not accomplices in parental kidnapping. But the part of me that lived through those 2 weeks, the part that still wakes up at 3 a.m. checking on the kids, making sure they're still breathing, still safe, still here, that part doesn't care about statistics or rationality. That part says, never again. So I don't know what to tell Emma. I don't know how to balance her needs with my fear. I don't know if I can ever let someone else watch my children without cameras in every room and tracking devices on their phones and background checks that border on paranoia. Maybe that makes me a bad mother. Overprotective. Damaged. Or maybe it just makes me someone who learned a lesson the hardest way possible. I saw Marcus's mother at the grocery store 2 weeks ago. I was picking up milk and bread, distracted by Liam trying to climb out of the cart, when I looked up and there she was in the cereal aisle. We locked eyes. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she walked away without a word. I don't blame her. What is there to say? Her son is in prison. Her grandchildren are growing up without her because I have a restraining order that includes extended family visits. She probably hates me. But part of me wanted to follow her. To corner her between the Cheerios and the Frosted Flakes and ask, did you know? Were there signs I missed? Did he tell you what he was planning? I wanted to ask if she understood why I did what I did. If she could see past her own grief and anger to recognize that her son tried to steal my children. That he chose his affair over his family. That he destroyed everything himself. But I didn't follow her. I just stood there, holding Liam in the cart while he babbled about cookies, and watched her disappear around the corner. Some conversations aren't worth having. Some people will never understand. And I don't owe anyone explanations for saving my children. Not even his mother. The thing about revenge, or justice, or payback, whatever you want to call it, is that it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't heal the wound or undo the betrayal or restore what was lost. It just stops the bleeding. Marcus is in prison. Sophia is deported. I have full custody. By every measurable standard, I won. But Emma still has nightmares sometimes. Liam still asks where Daddy went. I still panic when the phone rings at unexpected times. We're all still living with the aftermath of what they tried to do, what I had to do to stop them. There's no clean ending here. No triumphant music playing as the credits roll. Just life, continuing. Messier and harder and more complicated than before, but continuing. We're seeing a family therapist now. Dr. Martinez, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a calm voice that never pushes. Emma draws pictures during sessions. The therapist says it helps her process emotions she doesn't have words for yet. Last week she drew our old house, the one we had to sell because I couldn't stand being there anymore. In the picture, there are 4 stick figures in the front yard: me, her, Liam, and Sophia. Marcus isn't there. When Dr. Martinez asked about it, Emma said simply, Daddy was at work. He was always at work in her memory. Always absent, always somewhere else. So his physical absence now isn't that different to her. She doesn't have enough context yet to understand what he tried to do, why he's really gone. She just knows he made bad choices. That's the phrase Dr. Martinez suggested we use, and that sometimes when people make bad choices, they have to go away for a while. Emma accepts this with the resilience of children. She asks about him sometimes, usually at bedtime when her defenses are down. Is Daddy coming to my birthday party? Can Daddy see my good report card? Each question is a small knife. I answer honestly but gently. No, baby. Not yet. Maybe someday, but not now. Someday she'll ask for the truth. Someday I'll have to tell her the whole story. And I don't know how I'm going to explain that her father loved someone else more than he loved her. That he was willing to take her from me but only as collateral to his new life, a package deal to secure Sophia's cooperation. That she was never the point, she was just a tool. I don't know how I'm going to help her survive that knowledge. But I guess I'll figure it out when the time comes. The same way I figured out how to survive those 2 weeks. The same way I'm figuring out how to survive now. One day at a time. One breath at a time. One moment of silence that stretches into strength. My mother's cancer came back last month. Just a small spot on her latest scan, but enough to restart the conversation about treatment options. She told me over tea at her kitchen table, the same table where I used to do homework as a child, where my grandmother taught me to roll tortillas with the right pressure. I'm not doing chemo again, she said. Not right away. The oncologist thinks we can watch it for now. I wanted to argue. To insist she fight it with everything available. But I understood. She'd been through 6 months of treatment already, had sacrificed so much of her strength to be there for my kids during the worst time of our lives. She was tired. Okay, Mama, I said. We'll watch it together. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her grip was weaker than it used to be, but still steady. You're stronger than you think, Mija. Look what you survived. Look what you saved. I didn't feel strong. I felt exhausted and scared and still waiting for the next disaster. But I nodded anyway. There's a Spanish proverb my grandmother used to say, Camarón que se duerme, se lo lleva la corriente. The shrimp that falls asleep gets carried away by the current. She meant it as a warning. Stay alert. Stay aware. Don't trust the calm water. I think about that sometimes. About how I almost fell asleep. How I almost trusted the calm. How if I'd been just a little less tired that Tuesday, if I'd pulled into the garage instead of parking in the driveway, if I'd announced myself when I came in instead of staying quiet, I would never have heard that phone call. I would never have known. And one day I would have come home to an empty house and spent the rest of my life trying to get my children back. But I didn't fall asleep. I heard. I stayed alert. I fought. And that morning, the morning the police came, I saw Sophia through the window as they led her out in handcuffs. She looked at me, confused and betrayed, still not understanding how I'd known. Our eyes met through the glass. I smiled at her and said in perfect Spanish, loud enough for her to hear through the open door, Buen viaje. Have a nice trip. She froze. Just for a second, comprehension flickering across her face. The realization that I'd understood every word. Every phone call. Every whispered plan. That I'd been 3 steps ahead the entire time. But by then it was too late. By then every account was frozen, every passport flagged, every escape route closed. By then, I'd already won. Not because I was smarter or stronger or better. But because I listened. Because I waited. Because I understood more than they thought I did. Because I refused to be carried away by the current. So when people ask me now how I managed it, how I kept my composure, how I didn't break, I tell them the truth. I didn't manage it. Not really. I shattered into 1,000 pieces and somehow held them together long enough to save my children. I became someone I didn't recognize and maybe never will again. I crossed lines I didn't know existed and made choices that still haunt me in the dark. But I'd do it all again. Every recording. Every lie of omission. Every smile at Sophia. Every night next to Marcus. Every single thing. Because at the end of the day, when Emma and Liam climb into my bed during a thunderstorm, when they wrap their small arms around me and fall asleep against my shoulders, when I can count their breaths and know they're safe, that's all that matters. Not revenge. Not justice. Not winning. Just keeping them here. With me. Where they belong. Everything else is just details.